How's everybody doing? How's everyone doing? So let's jump in, say hello to everyone. I hope you guys enjoyed that countdown. Today we have some guests for you all. And one is Derek right here, and we have another one, Larry. And if you guys don't know who they are from Sony. Brian's not here yet, so let's take him out. I'm here. Larry's here. Hey, so today we're going to go over all the different TVs that are best for console gaming. We're not going to talk about PC gaming. That's a whole different beast, right? That goes into 144, 240, all the craziness of PC gaming, and I'm sure we'll have that one day. But today the focus is on both the PS5 and the PS5 Pro, because a lot of you may not want to upgrade, but you still want to know, hey, what's the best TV for PS5? And specifically for PS5 Pro, is there anything happening? And the reason why I brought Sony here today, and I love that Larry has the Sony sticker so that they know who I'm talking to, because Derek could be from TCL for all I know. Oh, there you go. He is from Sony. Ah!
Come on, man.
And,
we got to get coordinated.
But it's not limited to just Sony TVs, everyone. We're just hitting it off, starting off with Sony trying to convince us, wait, they're a gaming TV. So a couple of ground rules for this stream. First, there is no, PS5 Pro, why waste your money, right? The assumption is you guys are going to get the PS5 Pro. And you want to know, okay, I'm committed like I did. I just finished my pre-order. That countdown was literally my countdown. They put me in a waiting room. Like, oh, you know what? I got to use this. So I did a screen record of my own waiting room experience just for you guys. So I got my pre-order in. The $1,000 30th anniversary package was sold out in the first 10 minutes. But as of 8:30 my time, it was still available, right? So I went in, ordered one, maybe two. And so definitely it's not like last time where it's sold out in the first hour. It was still available as of an hour ago. So the PS5 Pro on the Sony PlayStation site as of 9:30, it looked like it was still available. Okay, now, if you're committed to getting a PS5 Pro, but you don't know, one, whether you should upgrade your Sony TV, because they're here to tell you whether your TV is still good enough to go for PS5 gaming. And if you do upgrade or get a Sony, why Sony is not just cinema TVs, which is my fault. I kind of pigeonhole you guys as the movie watchers TVs. But this stream is about all the different types of brands and models. But I wanted to give Sony a shot at the start to convince me to consider a Sony TV, because I know if you catch my stream, you'll be like, wait, again? Samsung and LG again? Where's the Sony suggestion? So the one thing I do know about Sony TVs is I've heard that with the PS5 and probably the PS5 Pro, there is a special connection, right? It's not just an emotional connection, but there's an actual technical, I'd say, tone mapping or something, some magic that is more than just spiritual between a Sony TV and a PS5. And so with that, Derek and Larry from Sony Connect, and before you guys talk, they have their own channel that is Sony channel. And if you have any problems with a Sony TV or any Sony product, right? My Sony shoes don't fit anymore. Go to that channel. They have their weekly special talking and helping you solve your Sony TV problems. So, Derek, Larry, why should we consider a Sony TV for gaming?
Good question, Derek, Larry. I'm going to default to you. Go ahead, Derek.
Crickets, right? Crickets, yeah. I love it.
No, I can definitely start this one because I know that Larry is a tremendous gamer. I mean, getting him into meetings, he's like, hang on, I'm in the middle of a game all the time. Right, sure. No, but thanks for having us. First of all, FOMO, I do appreciate it. It's awesome to be in front of this great crowd, and I see a lot of good stuff about the PS5. Congratulations to those of you who have managed to get it so far, whether it's the 30th anniversary or the Pro, whatever. Great. I love it. Love to see it. But to answer your question, the first thing I want to start with, and it's not really new for us. We've actually had it for a couple of years, but we do have Perfect for PlayStation 5, or Perfect for PlayStation is actually what it evolved into. And specifically kind of what you're talking about is going to be our auto HDR tone mapping feature with the PlayStation. So much like you said, tone mapping is very important to make sure you have the correct dynamic range to see what you are supposed to see. It's great for movies. So how do you do it with gaming? Well, the fact that we are part of Sony that creates the PlayStation and we build these amazing TVs, we have the ability to essentially, and I'll kind of segue to this in a moment, are utilizing source-based tone mapping to a degree. We actually have a communication between the TV and the PlayStation to say, okay, you have an A80K, or you have a Bravia 7, you have an A95L, whatever the case is out of those compatible models. Here are the specific HDR settings for your PlayStation. So now you don't have to really stress about, and let me know in the comments, I'd be interested to know how many people freak out about that white shape in the white box when it's like, wait till you can just barely see this icon. Like kind of see it, but here I can still barely kind of. It's like, where do you draw that line? This is a very simple way that when you first set up the PlayStation 5 console, I assume the Pro will probably work functionally the same, but it'll say, hey, it's been optimized for your TV. You're good to go. So that way you're actually getting that best dynamic range for the TV that you have.
Now, this is unique to the Sony TV, right? This is unique to
Correct.
Sony. So if I have any other brand, it's not going to have that flag.
Correct. Yes.
Okay.
Yes. That is a feature that is specific for us to make that much easier. Now, if you want to further adjust that HDR performance, you can if you wish to, because people sort of have different preferences as to what they prefer.
That was so well said, Derek.
Can you tell us what models? So, because a lot of people are like, wait, I don't have a PS5 or a PS5 Pro, and I have an older Sony. So if I get it, will this quote unquote Sony have it? So what years, what models would have this flag?
There's quite a few that do have it. All of the 2024 models do have it. If I'm not mistaken, Larry, you might need to correct me. The X80K and 85K, I believe, do not.
Okay.
But it goes into the... I might need to check myself on that because I don't want to give the wrong information. You know what we can do? And actually, I'm going to say this now. Sorry, Larry. Give 1 second. No. I saw you wanted to talk. Thank you. No, just kidding. Larry will probably put me in my place because he knows a lot more than I do. But I just want to say this very quickly. To any of you that are watching here too, and then FOMO, of course, as you go throughout this, if there are questions that people really want information on, such as this model list, we will come back. We will get that to you, and then you can share that with
definitely. Yeah, I'll post it on my community tab. So in case they have the older Sony, they might not need to upgrade. And so let me just reiterate what you were saying. When that flag pops up, you said the tone mapping. They don't, so you don't have to go in there and adjust it. So my biggest concern, so we'll start with LCD TVs, mini LED, photo local dimming. This is there are so many settings. So when you go into game, first of all, do I have to be in game mode for this flag, right? So I have to go into game mode. Once I'm in game mode, if it recognizes, or if it's the right TV, it'll recognize that it's a PS5 or a PS5 Pro, and then it will have automatic tone mapping directly to the game engine, which means I don't have to worry about going into the settings and playing around because you guys have chosen the best setting on that Sony TV to get me that HDR impact. Like I can't go in there and tune it any further to improve that tone mapping, basically.
Yes, yeah. And now if somebody has a preference and they want it to be different, they could. But based on that specific model, to your point, you know, the capabilities of a Bravia 3 are very different from a Bravia 9. So those settings would be different based on the capabilities of the model.
And so this is why on the Sony, you calibrate with those little white dots, right? Keep on going up or down until you don't see the black dot, until you don't see the white dot, all that good stuff. I mean, that is calibrating your TV to the PlayStation. So is this happening in the background, or do I still have to go through that calibration again, or does doing that screw it up? So you just see what I'm saying? Because you guys have already made the match. Do I need to go then go back in and do those clicks again? Because we're going to get the question, wait a minute, if there's a special connection, should I be screwing it up by clicking it again?
Well, I think we have to keep one really important thing in mind. Although both the PlayStation engineers as well as the Sony Bravia engineers feel as though utilizing audio HDR tone mapping is the perfect setting, there is a level of subjectivity that still has to be there, right? We know that as gamers and content watchers, we may want things a little bit darker than what is actually from the algorithm standpoint correct, or a little bit brighter, or vice versa. So there is the opportunity, as Derek was alluding to earlier. You can always make tweaks and adjustments within the menu per taste, but our messaging is we're going to take the guesswork out of it. And if you are a gamer whose ideal situation is to have the perfect picture quality as defined by Sony, right? That's inclusive of both Bravia and PlayStation. We're going to take all the guesswork out of it from you and do it automatically.
Okay. And that really helps me understand it because you hear the word, oh, there's a special tone mapping thing happening, but what makes it special? As you're saying, so basically it's as close to the creator's intent because you are directly talking to the game engine more so than any other TV. Okay.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I want to add one more thing to that, because when you first set up the PlayStation 5, it goes through that process of adjusting or calibrating your HDR performance just for the console as a whole. I know some games actually offer it within game as well. When you first do it on one of these compatible TVs, it actually says, we preset it for you, but if you wish to adjust it, you can. So it allows you to just back out at that point and never have to go into it again if you don't want to. But you do have the option within the system to tweak it if you want to at some point later on.
And of course, this question every year, so we're going to have to address it. Just in case, Larry and Derek, can we confirm that in 2025 Sony model TVs, I've got to go, will they have 4 HDMI 2.1 ports? And for those who don't know, I mean, I have to define 2.1 because it's just all over the place. 4 high bandwidth, 40 or 48 gigabit per second, because now 2.1 is almost anything that passes 4K is 2.1. I mean, it's so generic. Right. So specifically, 4 gaming ports capable of 48 gigabit or 40 gigabit support for 4K 120 and HDR and VR. Okay, so Sony has always had 2 since 2021 or so with their top-end TVs. Yep. 2025, what can you tell us?
I can't tell you anything. No. This is
wait until CES is what I'm always told.
Look, I love that question, and the more it comes up, and let me just give you my little spiel here for a second. I never get tired of that question coming up because it just fuels us to continue to take that information back, and that's one of the great things that Derek and I have the opportunity to do. It's not just to be a set of ears to the fans out there, whether you're just a consumer electronics fan or a Sony fan specifically, but we love hearing it because it gives us fuel to be able to take back. Now, are the engineers and all the powers that be in Sony aware of the consumer's desire to have it? Absolutely, yes, because we've made that abundantly clear, and you all have too, so thank you for that. What the plans are for 2025? I don't know. They won't tell me because I would be most likely to slip and spill that information, but that I am not aware of right now.
I got you.
They're gonna hold that info pretty close because they know Larry. He likes to toe that line almost too much. And honestly, if he was gone, I would have way too much work. So you have to stick around.
Will do.
And I wanted to hit this real quick because PS5 Pro mentioned in passing 8K support, right? And so Bucci asked, hey, can we talk about 8K TVs? I'm looking to get one. So in the context of the PS5 Pro, I have to just tell everyone who's looking to game 8K on the PS5 Pro. We're not talking PC gaming 8K. So first, assuming that it's passing, let's say 8K 30, your TV at 8K 30 will not look any better than 4K 120 because 8K 30 motion looks worse. 4K 120 looks better than 8K 30. It's not until you get to 8K 120 can you then see the resolution where the 8K and the motion resolution mesh. But if you're at 8K 30, 8K 60, it's pointless. That's number one. Number two, 4K OLED TVs look better than 8K LCD TVs in gaming. End of story. Because infinite contrast looks higher resolution than slightly worse contrast on a mini LED LCD TV. I've done this comparison over and over. As much as 8K is great, unless it's an 8K OLED, you're wasting your money. Better to get for the same price a 4K flagship for gaming. And it would look better because of that infinite contrast, which is more visible to your eye than the extra pixels. And lastly, if you are wanting to game on an 8K OLED, assuming it's capable of 8K 120, you're paying more than $25,000. So it's okay, Bucci, if you're looking to talk about 8K gaming, you don't need to. Now, 8K watching, Derek, Larry, I know in the past, Sony had the Z9 series, right? Z9K.
Mhm.
We've been waiting. Uh, and I know you can't talk about future products, but what is it you tell your Sony TV
Mhm.
fans when it comes to 8K? Would you recommend an older 8K Sony that's still available or the more modern Bravia 9?
You want
Oh,
to take it, Larry?
oh,
I know that's in
oh,
your wheelhouse, but I can definitely
oh.
offer some feedback
Yeah.
too if you want.
Yeah, I will. Here you go. I have, you don't see it off camera. I have an 85-inch Z9K not currently plugged in to the wall. I actually took it down and replaced it with the Bravia 9. See,
Is it
from
because of your energy consumption went through the roof?
had nothing. You
Not
know
even
what? It's funny. I never looked at that. But look, interesting take. But here's the interesting thing. The 8K televisions are the one TV that was never content driven, right? It was and you hit the nail right on the head. It was pixel density. It was to try to give you that richer, deeper color, even with 4K content, right? But OLED still continued to challenge 8K, and it's my suspicion. I don't want to speak on any authority from the designers, in our Tokyo office, but because 8K's evolution compared to what we've done with our advanced backlight system on Bravia 9, and then also what we've
Hmm.
done with A95L, there hasn't been a need or a justifiable reason to release another 8K TV. Our Z9K is still a beast of a television with respect to what's available on the market today. And to your point, FOMO, unless we see a space where you're starting to deliver 8K 120 or even 8K 60 regularly, or if you're looking at an 8K OLED in that instance, still right now highly processed, highly developed, beautiful picture quality on a 4K TV, whether it's an A95L or a Bravia 9 for that matter, that's still the way to go. That's still definitely the way
Hmm.
to go from my personal perspective.
All right.
Yeah,
And
I would echo that too. Just very quickly, I've been gaming on OLED since A1E, and I am an avid gamer. Every night, that's sort of my escape to just do my own thing. And man, it's always been amazing. To be honest, the A1E had a little bit of issues with latency, in its beginning days, but you turn off all the things and it gets very manageable. But going to the A80K and the A95L, like it's absolutely amazing. But with how close I am to the TV, 8K just is not necessary for me. And you still get this absolutely incredible picture. And I do like native resolutions matching personally. So,
mhm,
that's personal preference though, too.
I'm with you. And now Skull D or Skull Die has a question that I think is perfect for you guys. So I'll start off with my response to this, and I want to hear what Sony themselves have to say. I have a
Hmm.
Bravia 4 and want to get a new TV. I was thinking of a G4. Why should I stick with Sony? If so, what Sony TV is similar and around the same price point? So if we're talking G4, we're talking flagship, and I'm talking at the shootout, which was just a couple of weeks ago, right? The A95L went head to head against the G4. Both of them were similar price, and consistently the G4 lost for three reasons. Uh, Whether shadow detail, whether it's in the brightest areas, it was desaturated. The colors were simply lacking. And it's not because LG didn't try. The WOLED technology has hit a cap for that type of content, which is just regular movie content. We're not talking Jennifer Gallows pushing the envelope of brightness. This is just basic movie watching. It doesn't matter what it is, 1917 and so forth. And it was the G4 between the extremes, lower shadow detail, the brightest areas. It looks great. It looks indistinguishable. Once you get into the shadow detail, you lose color. Once you get above a certain nit level, there's no color saturation, but the brightness is there. And so the A95L was the king of TVs in that it got closer to the reference monitor, so you're able to reflect what Sony does best, right? Cinematographer's intent. So that's one reason. Now, if you're talking specifically, I'm getting a G4 for gaming. Now, we can go over all the features, 144 hertz, this and that. So we're not getting into that, but why should you consider a Sony A95L over a G4? That is essentially it. It just struggled because of its OLED. Now, if I should consider Sony, what TV is similar and around the same price point, it would be the A95L. But that's my take. Notice I didn't mention the Bravia 9, which is a similar price. But guys, what are your thoughts on why should they choose a Sony, which Sony, over the G4?
Yeah, I'll kind of jump in because I'd like to hear Larry's thoughts on the Bravia 9 because he's more familiar with that side of it. But I can speak on the A95L. And again, I'm not here to talk about competitors, so I'll just kind of focus on what we do here. But Sony's processing, much like you mentioned, which was very much a differentiator, we have a different approach to it because we create these mastering monitors. Even though gaming kind of goes through a little bit of a different pathway, they're not mastered in a movie studio in that way. That's why we have the perfect for PlayStation features like auto HDR tone mapping. We introduced this year as well, which I'll have to check if it's actually on the A95L, but I know it's on the 789 Bravia series, is source-based tone mapping. So being able to allow the understanding of what this HDR performance should be based to match that TV, whatever console or whatever sort of source it will be kind of going forward in the future. But realistically, we're trying to really match that intent of the source. However, we need to make it happen. And that's why we do have those cinematic settings and, Netflix calibrated mode, Prime Video calibrated mode, things like that that match what it should be. We want to deliver that to you. And it's the same thing with gaming as well. And you get the benefits of OLED, obviously, is the difference between the 9. You get that pixel, individual pixel control for incredible black levels. So.
Oh, but Derek, don't discount the Bravia 9. I'm not going to allow.
I know. I'm going to let you take that part. Yes.
I would. And I will speak specifically on Bravia 9 because I have moments. Look, in my primary space where I watch TV, it's been a revolving doors of television. It's been just a revolving door of TVs, right? I went from A95K to Z9K and then to Bravia 9 just to kind of give you my journey. I have moments, and I don't want to oversell this. I have moments in watching the Bravia 9, especially a lot of dark scene content, where it feels so much like the A95 that it's crazy. And FOMO, I don't know if you experienced some of those same things at the King of TV shootout, but the Bravia 9, speaking specifically because OLED is just so great for gaming, but the Bravia 9 with that backlight control, with how dark it can get but not crush black level, but then the peak bright, the highlights that you can get, showing that true contrast, that difference between dark, it is absolutely spectacular. But the last note, just on sort of a why Sony thing, if I can, game developers now more than ever, if you think about some of the first-person shooter games and things like that, there's so much of a cinematic feel to those games. I think about like Ghost of Tsushima, those kind of games, they're almost movie-like. So the same characteristics or similar characteristics that make our TV so amazing from a cinematic standpoint, that expression, it absolutely carries over into a lot of the gaming. So that's one of the unique things that we can talk about, because at the end of the day, you'll always have this battle of latency and speed and all that. But would you trade off maximum low latency for subpar picture quality, right? It's always going to be a give and take. And at the end of the day, we still lean heavy into delivering that artistic expression of what you as a console or even a PC gamer would appreciate from the visual aspects of the gaming elements. We don't lose sight of that on both sides of the coin.
And which I think Lord Punisher must be a Sony plant, because he actually is saying, I've heard gamers say they prefer the Bravia 9 over the A95L. Crazy, but that's what I've heard. And
you know what we can do?
Hey,
Larry, you go ahead and box up your Bravia 9, send it to me. I'll do some comparisons and I'll let you know what I think.
Buddy, that is not going to happen. I love that TV so much.
Othman has a great question, and I think it relates to what you guys are saying about that direct tone mapping between a PS5 and a modern Sony TV. So it's that, like HGIG. So for those who don't know, HGIG is supposed to be, quote unquote, a standard or a mode or something that in that mode, the tone mapping matches the creator's intent. And some people feel it's too dim, like, creator, too dim. I'm going to go into dynamic tone mapping and a little pop or whatever. And each TV has their own setting that's equivalent to HDIG. LG actually calls it literally HDIG. Samsung, you have to put a combination of settings and it gets there. Sony does it. I don't remember. It doesn't have an HDIG mode. So just connecting with a PS5, basically it recognizes a Sony TV. That's its HEIG, correct? Because it's giving you what it feels the TV and the game engine, they're talking directly now, tone map.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yes.
I just wanted to
Correct.
confirm that. Yeah, because like
Yeah.
we always talk about, tone mapping settings are all over the place. And HEIG is supposed to guarantee at least creator's intent. Whether you like it or not is up to you. And I'm glad that a PS5 or a PS5 Pro connected to a Sony TV, at least the 2024 model, gets you there without pushing any buttons other than getting into game mode, right? Okay.
Right.
All right. I'm sure I'm going to get a lot of questions about that. And Asaf asks, sorry, just tuned in again. HEIG will be supported on Sony TVs when? And so, as we said, Asaf, it's supported as long as it's with the PS5, right? There is no HGIG mode per se. Once your modern Sony TV recognizes the PS5 or PS5 Pro, there's going to be a flag. Hey, congratulations, PS5. We're connected. We know what we're doing with HDR. Don't worry about it. And if you don't like it, you guys go in and tune it to your liking. And Asaf, he was also asking, what is the difference between a PS5 Pro? Like, why are people upgrading? Why are people getting it over the PS5? And essentially, what my understanding is, and of course we have to test it to make sure this is what it will be, but the promise by the PlayStation team is with the PS5 Pro, you're guaranteed what they call 4K fidelity with all the ray tracing and all the magic, just enough of it turned on without sacrificing frame rates. They don't want to drop below 60 FPS. So their objective is to give you locked 4K 60. So you don't have to worry about VRR. So if you have a TV, and TVs all look great with 4K 60, having the PS5 Pro, the hope, I'm saying the hope, they're saying it's likely will happen, is that all the games will be remastered. No signal. All the games will be remastered so that on the PS5 Pro, with its slightly upgraded chipset, AI upscaling, the PSSR, whatever DLSS equivalent. So it upscales the resolution to look amazing without dropping the frame rates below 60 FPS. You cannot do that right now with the PS5, but the PS5 Pro is supposed to do that consistently. And this is why people are excited, because motion resolution and fidelity, high quality, that's been the promise of the original PS5. And it feels like we had to wait till the Pro to get it, but hey, here we are.
Mm-hmm.
And then
Yeah,
there's,
you pretty much hit it.
I'm gonna let Derek comment. I'm out of here.
Yeah. Thanks, Larry. No, it's just vengeance on me for me having to do that one time on our show. So it was.
Oh, that's awesome. That's a Larry thing. If you catch their show, he's always time to go to the restroom, bio break, and I'm out of here. All right. Now, the gaming, and I just want to talk about gaming on a mini LED LCD TV and gaming on an OLED. And so for me, and this is my take, I never thought of gaming on a mini LED, no matter how good it is, as a option if you could afford an OLED. Because I always assume the LCD is for two reasons. One, it's cheaper to get a larger LCD for the same price, or two, you're afraid of burn in, right? Burn in, or you just want more size bang for the buck. Whereas OLED, sometimes the size is not there. You want to go 83-inch, but it's just too expensive, or you want something out of this TV, and OLED doesn't get you there. So, but what I'm hearing from Larry specifically is no. I prefer, or I like gaming on a good, high quality mini LED like a Bravia 9, even though I may have the A95L available. You're not seeing this. And for those who are joining us, they feel like, I'm so afraid of burn in. I'm just going to take a step down to mini LED. Do you feel it's a step down, Larry? I mean, it sounds like it's better for you.
I won't call it a step down. And despite, I know the concerns for image retention and burn-in still exist. And we've painstakingly developed so many levels of technology to help mitigate that the best way possible. So again, I get that. But I still feel, and I'm just really speaking specifically of our two premium TVs, the most premium, the A95L and the Bravia 9, because the backlight control is so dynamic. And again, FOMO, you've seen it, right? We've torn the LCD layer off of the Bravia 9, and just in looking at the backlights, many of you all that are here have seen it. You can still decipher what the image is even without the LCD layer. That level of dynamic control is as close as you can get to pixel level control that exists on an OLED. So it's like almost there. However, the benefits of having something that can deliver this near absolute black level, but that can give you just these amazing, spectacular highlights, that's where the game is, no pun intended, that's where the game changes for me with respect to the Bravia 9 comparing to like the A95L. Not poo-pooing on A95L, so I don't want you to get all offended over there, okay? But you can't go wrong, from my perspective, can't go wrong with either one. But my personal take is mini LED, specifically with regards to the Bravia 9, is not anywhere near a step down. I would almost categorize it as a step up.
Yeah, I think
I need to hear that.
Yeah, I think what's often lost, especially because of what the Bravia 9 is capable of, is this contrast limitation, right? So we know that OLED has hit the floor. It's hit black zero. And it does really good with QD-OLED technology to be very bright with nice saturated colors. But, even though you're lifting that black floor up on the Bravia 9, you're really increasing that upper level of HDR to really get specular highlight detail that, when you think about games, they are intense, and depending on the game, of course, right? But a game that has tons of explosions and things like that, you almost want to feel like you're part of it. And sometimes that intensity of the brightness almost adds a whole new level of immersion to a certain degree. Now, there are personal preferences to that too, but I could see it being that way. But I don't have a Bravia 9, so I can't test it. So.
And you won't be getting one from me. So there you go.
Well, he's like next door. I'm coming over right now.
Yeah.
We got
this
super chat
to do that. But.
Thank you for the super chat, King Z7. Do we know if the PS5 Pro has a larger bandwidth than the current PS5, 40 gigabit HDMI interface? So I don't know. I actually kind of looked into this. I couldn't get any confirmation, so I guess we'll have to wait till the actual PS5 Pro, or if anyone in chat knows, let us know. Do you guys know if the PS5 Pro is going to support higher bandwidth? Yeah, but now just to take a step back from that, if PS5 Pro, if the comments are saying 4K 60, 4K 60, HDR, VRR, you don't need that much. Not to excuse them if they don't go any higher, but they know how much bandwidth they need to support what they're doing. Now, if they're promising 8K 60, 8K 30, you're going to have to get higher. So I'm just taking context of specs. What gigabits do we need to get there? And it looks like it's going to have to be 40 plus if they're going to support 8K HDR gaming. Yeah. And now, actually, I should have asked you guys this. Did either of you get a PS5 Pro? So, obviously DSOism didn't get one, so he's not happy. Where have your experiences been? Are you planning to get a PS5 Pro, guys?
I know I'm a little bit more of the gamer. It's, man, I have a 5-year-old, so my time with gaming is limited to like an hour at night, and it's not a priority for me right now. Will I? Yes, especially with I can't say the name, certain games that I'm waiting to be remastered to be released. That yes, I will definitely be getting one for. So.
Yeah,
I have a 26-year-old who is forcing me to find a way to get one.
Wait a minute. You're the same age. You're the same age as your 26-year-old. You don't look a day over 30, man. I had a kid when I was 10. What can I say?
That's my guy. Yeah, but needless to say, I've got to get him one. And obviously, when you work for Sony, people think you can just wave a magic wand and one appears at the front door. It's not that easy.
Yeah. And actually, I'm going to add something to that too, because we get this question quite often. A lot of PlayStation questions. There's actually a division between what we do and PlayStation. They're actually part of Sony Interactive Entertainment, SIE. And Larry and I are both part of SNA, Sony North America, part of Sony Electronics. So we don't handle anything around the gaming side, and they're very, very secretive about that stuff, understandably so. But yeah, TV stuff, sound bars, AVRs, cameras, wireless speakers, headphones, in-zone monitors. I don't know if I missed anything, but that's the sort of stuff that we work in, and we're here to support. And it's great to kind of be here and on your channel, FOMO, because obviously for you, we will be that resource. So when you have these great questions from these awesome people, and you don't have that information, we can reach out to us, and we will do our best to get you any information you need that we can't say.
All right. Yeah. And well, this is something I guess I should have asked. I didn't even think about this. I get that you're loyal to the Sony ecosystem. So, because it's about PS5 Pro, we know HIG, direct connection, HIG, good to go. Now, what setting are you going to get HIG for Xbox? Like, you're in game mode. What setting in game mode is closest to HIG for non-PS5 gamers?
Ooh, that's kind of a tricky one because, well, what I'll say is this: with this year's models, the Bravia 7, 8, and 9, they do offer source-based tone mapping. I don't know if that console supports it off the top of my head. So that would be the factor. If it did, then it would basically be that sort of functionally. But as of right now, the way that we function with the game mode is it's essentially taking the most accurate representation. There's usually minimal processing on a game picture setting initially in game mode because it's supposed to deliver the most accurate experience to that. Obviously, when it comes to the HDR performance, we don't have a specific matching for it like we do with the PlayStation because that's part of Sony's family. So really, I don't know if I have a great answer for that aside from game mode itself does look amazing. I may game on multiple console types and say that it does look amazing. And I've not had any particular issues, and I have tried it on multiple TVs to kind of see and compare, and I am not disappointed at all. So I don't know if that really answers the question, but it's really the best that I have. I don't know, Larry, if you have anything that you can add to that.
I don't. I was actually buzzing somebody while you were having that conversation. Like I know our TV does with Ambient Optimization Pro. This takes it outside of game menu. I want to just first of all level set with that. It takes it out of game menu, but with Ambient Optimization Pro settings, you do have a series of HDR tone mapping that essentially takes HDR content and maps it based upon the tone curve that the TV is calibrated in, if you will. So there's an element of that doesn't. I'm not in any way going to call that officially HDIG, but that's one of those sort of kind of workarounds, if you will, but that is absolutely not in game mode. So there are some sacrifices you would make with latency and things of that nature when you add those additional layers of processing that are outside of game mode. So
And now I want to welcome Brian. Hey, welcome to the club,
Brian,
Brian. Glad
How
you're
are
here,
you?
buddy.
I honestly
this-
I was too nervous to see Derek and Larry today, so I had to get my courage up. So
Nah,
come on, man.
it's an honor to be here.
What's up, boys?
Hey, Brian, I
I'll
learned
say,
something
man,
new
here to
about
help.
Sony TVs and the PS5 or the PS5 Pro, and it goes to HEIG. So they were telling me that when you connect one of the, let's say, a 2024 Sony TV to the PS5 or a PS5 Pro, they recognize what Sony TV you're connecting to. They will match the HDR settings automatically to the game engine, and essentially you're on HGIG. It is exactly how the settings should be for the content. Now you could play with that, and some people say, "Oh, it's too dim," whatever. But that is kind of Sony's HGIG mode on its TV if you have a PS5 without having to click on anything. As long as you're in game mode, you're plugging your PS5 or PS5 Pro. It'll flag, "Hey, Sony TV, we got you." You're done. And then from there, you can get out, or you can go back in and recalibrate the little white dots and
Yeah.
change it however you want. But essentially, I never thought of it. Oh, so it's plug and play HGIG. I thought it was very cool. So
Very cool.
very cool.
Look how good you
Now
guys
this,
look. You look so professional. How you guys doing?
Good, man. And well, we're on this amazing channel. We got to at least be semi-presentable, I think.
Oh,
Where's my? I need to have a Sony,
all of
Samsung,
you are in the
LG,
gym.
right? Just block one of each when I talk to different
Almost
guests.
got the freaking got the Lululemons on. All right, that kind of part.
Well, I wore pants, Brian, so that was an upgrade for me. I knew I was going to be on this
Yeah,
show.
not that we can tell, my friends. This is a great question. Thank you, Skolda, for another question. And I get this a lot. Okay, so soundbars and mixing and matching brands, right? Sony TV, Samsung soundbar, or vice versa, Samsung TV, Sony soundbar. Do mixing brands, one, affect the sound? And number two, I'm going to add compatibility. So I'm going to throw in my kind of experience with this. I'm going to let you guys take it from either side. Sony TV with non-Sony soundbars and vice versa. What I have found is the soundbars today, I mean, maybe 3 years ago, compatibility was an issue. Today, the TV companies are so good at being openly compatible with non-branded soundbars of their TV brand, right? And personally, I love the new Sony Quad. I recommend that be the standard to mix and match with any TV brand. Like I have a Samsung, and you would say, "Oh, why didn't you take the Samsung with the Q Symphony and so forth?" I go, "Nope, this is because I don't like the look of the soundbar. So for me, it's a combination of sound quality and the I don't like the look of the soundbar. It's just the sound quality is so immersive. The only drawback
Look
for
at the bar nine,
those
right?
who, right? Yeah, the only drawback is if you have the quad and you're not sitting right in front of the TV, you move a bit off. Then with a Sony TV, you could anchor that sound, like let's say with a Bravia 9, right? That Sony TV with the center sync, compatible center sync, the Bravia 9, 8, and 7, it will then center the dialogue and everything else is surround. But on any other TV, you don't get that feature. You can't center the dialogue. You get the phantom channel, but the phantom channel works best if you're, somewhat in front of the TV. But other than that, I think you can mix and match the quads with anything. A bit expensive, but a lot of people love the Samsung Q990 because it's such a value, and they want to put that in their Sony TV. Can they do it? Derek, Larry, how do you respond to people wanting to mix and match soundbars with TVs?
Go ahead, Larry.
I
You
love
got this.
I love how Derek was waiting on me because he knew. Okay, so
Mhm.
first thing, if I can talk about the quad. Um, I don't know if you've played around with the recent update with the Bravia Connect app with the quad, with the sound field optimization or 360 spatial sound mapping configuration. One of the things that we added this year, different than previous years, is primary listening location calibration, right? So if your seated position as the king of the house, if your seated position is off center, left or right, utilizing the Bravia Connect app will calibrate the sound processing to center the vocals based upon your localized position. So that's a big thing, and also plays into the fact that we could absolutely pair any of our theater products with our sound bars with a competitive television. It's no longer about compatibility. It's about what are the advantages of combining a Sony television, for example, with a Sony theater bar, and
Okay.
features like acoustic center sync, right? As you were talking about having the TV be the center channel, but not to go too deep into this, but the fact that Voice Zoom 3, which is just a groundbreaking feature that our TVs have, the fact that that feature carries down to the soundbar when you're using acoustic center sync gives you an even more immersive experience and lifted dialogue, so you don't have the stress and strain of trying to hear what's being said, in a scene, despite all the car crashes, laser beams, and spaceships, right? So I think that that's the big deal. From now, I really got to just say this from a why Sony standpoint with respect to the theater bars, regardless of your TV choice. I feel like there's still no perfect one TV for everyone, and I am a firm believer in that. But from a sound perspective, we never cut corners. We are a company of engineers, and if you could ever get an X-Acto knife or a razor and cut open a bunch of different sound bars, you might learn a little something. you might learn that the industry standard is to take one or two different speaker configurations and spread them around a bar for however many total of speakers that you want, and hope that this particular speaker shape can give you as much high frequency as it can low frequency. The difference in ours, and I use the Bar 9 for example, the Bar 9 has 13 individual speaker units, but there are 7 different designs within that bar that make up those 13 speakers. And, Brian and FOMO, you all have had a chance to see that. What that means is
that Culver City. It was
you saw that, yeah.
Yep.
Right. So what that means is a high frequency driver or a tweeter is a tweeter. A low frequency speaker unit is a low frequency, so on and so forth. So from a sound quality standpoint, sure, choose your TV, but the sound perspective, there's an absolute difference.
And
even if they're ugly, even if you don't like a traditional soundbar combo.
Well, speaking of that, I'm rocking the HTA 9s. One's right next to me still, and right now it's connected to a Samsung TV. And I haven't had any dropouts, only because that's one I'm reviewing, but I haven't had any dropouts. I still love that system. So, I mean, it's bigger, and I like the way it looks still, but it's got that white 80s kind of RoboCop vibe to it. But I really didn't pair it with other TVs that I was reviewing, and actually it works really well. And I paired it with the HDMI.
I think Sony Pony Steve has a great question because obviously he's a Sony fan and a Pony fan and a PS5 fan. So he can control his PS5 with a Bravia remote, but he can't flip it and control the Bravia TV with his PS5, kind of remap it. Is there any future plans to integrate the PS5 closer to the Bravia at, mixing the remotes, like, for example? You guys hear anything? Because this is on the TV side. Like, is the TV going to let PS5 remote play nice with the TV?
Yeah, we don't have an answer for that, unfortunately. But thinking about things.
Larry has an answer.
He was out at lunch with somebody, Derek.
No, you missed the memo. Derek missed the memo.
No.
Derek was getting coffee somewhere, and he talked to somebody.
Why am I
No,
here?
seriously, it's no. I know, Derek. No, if we were talking about cameras, I'd be saying why am I here? No, but anyway, so no, right? Out of the box natively, you can't, right? Because basically, the PlayStation controller's connection with the PS5, for example, is like a Bluetooth connection. However, I use PlayStation Remote Play on the Bravia 9. So when I take my PS5 remote and Bluetooth it to the TV, I could scroll through the home menu, watch Netflix. I have all the controls. In that instance, sure, your PlayStation remote can control your TV, but it would at the sacrifice of it will no longer control your PlayStation 5.
It's a Radio Shack approach.
For personal redemption here, I was going to segue to that, Larry.
My bad. Okay.
Larry messaged your crescendo. You're like, I was building a story.
I was.
Well,
I like
because
stories.
Derek,
I was trying to make it happen.
and Derek taught me about PlayStation Remote Play, so of course I knew he knew that. I just wanted to steal his thunder.
Mm-hmm.
So,
well, Derek and Larry, I had the old remote that went with the PS4. It was that extra long one. And the big complaint on that was it had all the buttons that were on the old PlayStation controller. And people were like, well, I want to play my games with these remotes. I'm like, come on, man. Like you want to be able to use that one remote and have it use like jump and shoot with it. That was like, well, I remember it had all those buttons on it. Do you remember that? That really long extra remote.
Yeah. It looked kind of like this.
Oh.
But it was long. It was actually, it looked like it had like a PlayStation. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And everyone's like, can I play games with it? I'm like, why would you want to play games with it? People just want to know that things can do it if they ever desire it. But
yep.
I love it.
It just got to be there. Paul CTI has a great question, and I can answer this because I actually did the test. Is anyone using the Bravia TV as a center channel for the Bravia Quad? So I have the Quad, I have the Bravia 9, and the first thing I did was that, and I'll tell you my discovery, Larry, and you can tell me if it's off. I found the Quad without the TV to sound better than the Quad with the TV because I found the volume. So the Quad adjusted it to the TV, and the TV became the bottleneck to the Quads. So at the same volume, the TV, it just everything felt more compressed, not as loud. When I took So I kept going back and forth. And with the TV not connected, right, just unplugged out of the sink, that little wire, boop, it sounded fuller and better to me. But I'm in front of the TV. Obviously, off angle, now you get the anchored, but phantom channel right in front of the TV. I recommend people don't use the TV center channel sync. It didn't add to the immersion. It didn't improve. I mean, the phantom channel is so good. It didn't make the dialogue clearer. Now, on the HTA9, it would. So that was one of the weaknesses of the HTA9. Subtly, the dialogue was not as clear, but the phantom on this new quad is just better, I think, than having the TV on just for the dialogue. So anyway, was your experience, Larry?
So, FOMO, at the risk of embarrassing myself, I'm going to give you some homework. Okay, I'm just going to assume that you haven't done this. Okay, I'm going to assume
I probably have not.
I had the same experience out of the box. It wasn't until I turned Voice Zoom 3 on the TV to max where my experience changed.
Aha! All right,
So,
all right. Yeah, I didn't do that. I did default. So default. Okay.
Try that. I felt it was more immersive, and I agree with you. From HTA9 to where we are with Quad, massive improvements with respect to Phantom Center, which I'm glad, because that was one of the things that no one is asking about buying a fifth speaker to be the center anymore. I'm so glad that's not a question anymore. We had to name it Quad so we could take that out of the question. But try that for me, and I would love to hear and get the feedback directly from you, and let me know how that turns out.
So voice Zoom on 3, and that's a setting
max, which is like 6.
Max. 6. Okay, take it to max. Voice Zoom to max.
I use it on the A80L and I like it, so I'll try doing that too. I liked it on the HDA9. I use the voice with the A80L. Maybe because my TV is bigger than FOMO's. You might be using a little TV. That might be the problem.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a 65-inch.
Oh, what are you doing with that thing? Come on, baby. You need a heavyweight division. Don't do that. What do you want with that?
I love it.
It's like, I got to get the 85-inch to make the quad even better, right?
Hey, you got out the game.
We got some good questions here. Brian, can you please ask if there's any chance for Bravia 9 in 98-inch or something in the future? And I'll just say, Mario, you could ask yourself. You don't have to ask Brian, but Brian, can you ask?
I need to hear it from Brian. Brian needs to ask.
You want me to ask them, hey guys, what do you think? I mean,
yeah, what?
You talk directly to them. That's what I'm hearing. Like, who do you want me to call?
Derek, you have to give the politically correct answer, and then I'll try to mess things up.
Let me see if I can do it. We cannot comment on future products or releases. Is that the verbatim?
That's actually it.
Recording, Derek.
Commit it to memory.
However,
yeah, I've had to say it a few times.
The SEC is listening.
Oh, God.
However,
yeah, no doubt.
It's too funny. I don't. I'll preface this. This is usually when John brings up a disclaimer, but I'll preface this by saying I don't know the answer. But a lot of the decisions we make from a manufacturing standpoint doesn't come down to whether or not we're capable or willing. It comes down to whether or not the market and the consumers are ready for it. FOMO, you referenced earlier about 8K 120 television, $25,000 TV. It's a small handful of people that would be willing to purchase that. And sometimes market tolerance from a price standpoint is what slows down innovation because these things cost, right? If we get to a point where there's this massive demand for it, then yeah, the challenge is because that backlight system is our own. We design it, we build it, we construct it. No one else has it. I think that would be an ultra premium ticket for a 98-inch Bravia 9. I would love to have it.
Yeah. And I want to answer this question by Lazy Mofo Prepper, because I know you guys cannot comment on other brands, so I will. You have to understand the design objectives of every product and every company. Sonos is a whole house audio system first. All their patents are about connecting your music ecosystem into as many devices as possible in the most seamless way as possible. And they completely screw that up in the most recent app. But regardless, that's where their expenses. And then later they added Soundbar. And their Soundbars are pretty good quality because they're relying on their music chops, right? And, subwoofer, great flexibility. But that is coming from, one end. Then Sony is coming from the end of immersive home theater first. And eventually you could play music and all that good stuff. So for me and what I use, which is specifically for watching TV, the quads, I believe, with the SW5 will give you a better immersive movie watching experience than the Sonos. However, it doesn't have the Sonos's other features, right? Whole house music and connecting this and that. If you max out the Sonos 5.1, right? You got the Arc, and then you've got the surround, and you got two subs, whatever. It's going to be pretty immersive. And for me, I don't like the Arc, the bar in front. So you can remove it and try to fiddle around with it. But then Sony has a 360 immersive sphere of sound, which I think works so good for movie watching on the quad. So it depends on your use case, Lazy. If you have music in different rooms, of course, Sonos is connecting everything, right? And Denon has their solution, and everyone has their solution. Now, Sony, as we're talking about TVs, I would take the quad. But I don't know enough about Sony's other product or ecosystem to respond further, because this is the first year I've even seen the Bravia Connect app bringing everything together. It's like, oh, finally, you got an app, right? So Larry, set me straight. Can Sony be taken to that next level, or what am I missing here?
Not yet from an audio eco standpoint. The Bravia Connect app does open up a lot of possibility. This is the first year, so Fomo, you haven't missed anything. This is its first year of its implementation, and it was us trying to not have 75 different apps to control all the different products. Although we are aware, and you said it as eloquent as anyone could, the two different focuses and directions. One was ecosystem and whole home. The other was isolated, cinematic experience or just viewing experience as a whole. I don't know. I say words and I don't know. I don't know.
Wait. Let me give you a story real quick. So Andrew, one of my friends, and you guys know him, another Sony rep, because he helps you through the products, right? And so I have the Theater U, right? You wear it on your neck. I'm like, oh, I'm going to turn on the Bravia Connect. Goes, no, you need to download the headphone app. Like, wait, what?
On my neck.
I was like, put that on your neck. Now, it doesn't fit Brian. He has to have the XL version. They're custom making it for you.
Hey man, it's flexible. Look at that.
I need to get. I'm getting one. I'm getting that one from my mom.
Wide.
Yeah. But I thought it was so funny. I didn't even know there was a headphone app. I'm like, wait, there's a headphone app to control the. Shouldn't the Theater U be controlled by Bravia? He goes, not yet. Maybe next time. So.
That's a good question.
You know what?
Can I just add something really quickly? Because I did notice he added a comment here. I'm a stone-aged Hawaiian dude, so I need help. Thanks so much. One thing I just want to add that is unique about what we do that you mentioned, FOMO, was the 360 spatial sound mapping is super, super easy to use on our current, the Bar 8, the Bar 9, and the Quad, where it maps the sound to your space. So if you're not really a technology person, it makes it super easy. It prompts it in the setup, and you let it do its little tones and stuff, and then you're good. You're good to go. Not to say that competitors don't have something, but it is a little bit more simple. I'll say that much.
It is very so I'll have to say that is very plug and play. It's actually much easier than HTA9, where the HTA9 you have to go through the HDMI OSD on the TV with its own little app within the TV. I like having it on my phone app better. And it was a lot, you guys, it was really well baked. My fear was, oh no, I'm on the first firmware. What's gonna happen next? And I've tried so many different apps from different brands, and it does not work well initially. And then 2 years later, it does. I'm like, oh, this is new. I'm gonna have to wait 2 years. But it actually worked out of the box, out of the app, seamlessly. So for people like Stone Age Hawaiian dude, and I got this in Hawaii on my last visit,
Nice.
the Quad is plug and play. And you don't need a Sony TV. That's what the app is for, right? If you have a Sony TV, great, but it's all on your app. You connect it, it recognizes everything, it does the whole woo, and then don't you have the actual phone becomes a microphone, right? So it's like a calibration microphone as well. You do your little thing. It was awesome. It was easy. I love it. So highly recommended.
Awesome.
Good call. Yeah, good call.
And
Yeah,
we had a super
I did
chat.
make a note. Yeah, I did make a
Oh,
note of that. I saw it pop up. So we can absolutely
you,
pass it on. And that's really one of the cool things about what Larry and I are doing is we want to connect. That's why we kind of rebranded our channel from Sony Support to Sony Connect, because there's a lot of value in every single bit of questions and information and challenges that everybody has. And experts like Brian and FOMO, listening to all you guys, they can kind of collect some of this and say, hey, I've got 50 people saying this is an issue. Here's a question. I get this a lot. We can support that and listen. I can't guarantee anything's going to happen, but I do know a guy in the PlayStation
yeah.
side that I can send it to.
Wait,
So
Derek, with
definitely
that,
do that.
because I know you have to go pick up your kids, and
My alarm
you
just
and
went off.
Larry
Yeah.
are busy people. So this is perfect, buddy. You caught us just in time. Can you guys pull some strings, Derek, and get the PlayStation team to give a proper keyboard attachment for the DualSense controller, please? And that's it.
We can
That's
pass
it.
it
Just
on. That's
pass
what
it
we can
on.
do. I just want to add one
All
more thing
right.
before we go, really quickly, because talking about the Theater U, and we're talking about some cool things for the PlayStation. The Theater U actually does support. Oh, sorry, my alarms are going off. The Tempest 3D audio on the PlayStation, so you can calibrate it for personalized 3D audio. This I use every night when I game. It's awesome, absolutely awesome. So just wanted to throw that out there as another really cool kind of PlayStation 5 attachment, if you will.
It does work well, by the way.
Yeah, it's really solid. I'm a fan.
Well,
I don't have one.
you guys bounce. I wanted to say that my interaction with you guys has always been, or anybody at Sony, is don't tell us what we're doing well. They want to know. So if you guys, the more you guys speak up in the comments, obviously in a positive way, they are always looking to improve. And my experiences at Culver City was we had engineers with pen and paper out talking about gaming. So if there was a question that you thought wanted to be addressed, it does get to you guys. So it's very important to be able to share that they're open to it. That's why they're here. And they're the only manufacturers here. So it's not just a PS5 thing. I know that's what the topic is for today, but you'll see us together in the future. The fact that they have this channel shows they want to know what the problems are and they want to improve them. That is very unique. And that's what a very unique culture to Sony. So I want to be able to share that with you guys that see us interact, that they really want to know the details.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. No.
Absolutely.
And we haven't told you guys before. Sony support is now Sony Connect, and Derek and Larry are hosting.
That's
So
a
I
great.
tell people, show up and complain away. Let them know how much you like or dislike your Sony headband, Sony necklaces, Sony watches, right? They're there for you. And with that,
I
hey,
get it
thank you
all.
so much, Sony. And then, right, the minute you leave, we're going to talk about Samsung and TCL so we don't hurt your feelings. So,
Yeah. Talk away.
Very sorry
You
that I
guys
missed
can
the
do that all
beginning.
you
My
want.
apologies.
No worries.
oh,
Yeah.
Love you
Thank
Brian,
you.
guys. Thank you so much.
Yes.
Great
Thank you
seeing
for
thank
having
you.
us. Appreciate it. And I'm sure we'll have a chance to do this again in the future. I hope so.
you. Absolutely.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
And we'll be on your channel making a ruckus.
Oh
no doubt.
boy.
I'm going to
There we
hold
go.
to that. Let's do it.
All
We
right.
don't have the good intro
Make
to
that
start,
happen.
Derek. We'll have to get there.
All
Awesome.
right, guys.
See you guys later. Thank
See
you.
you
Bye
later,
Thanks,
bye.
guys.
guys. See you.
Take
Bye-bye.
care.
All right. And
What's up, bro?
we are ready to talk more TVs. And all right, how you doing, Brian? I
I'm
know
good.
you
So
you
catch
you've
me
been
up.
you've been preparing for a special week.
Yeah, birthday tomorrow.
Ooh, turning 25 again. I love it.
25, baby. 25. So what was the conversation? I know you guys talked about, do you want to talk a little bit about the PS5 itself? Now that
So
Sony,
a lot of people are asking because they're not up to date. Oh, what PS5 Pro is out. So for those who just joined, it's just a really quick context of what we're doing here today on this stream. So first, those of you who ordered the PS5 Pro, why did you order it, right? And so we're not going to get into why, but essentially PS5 Pro promises what the PS5 couldn't deliver, although we thought they would promise that, which is high fidelity 4K with ray tracing. So their fidelity mode, the hope and expectation is it's going to be locked at 4K 60. So you don't have to worry about this VRR craziness, although there's still VRR. Having
yeah,
4K 60 locked and knowing that your 4K is of high quality is very important. And the
yeah,
PS5 Pro now has the hardware to get you there. Of course, there's been mention of 8K, this and that, but like everyone else, I'm like, guys, don't forget the 8K part. It's all
yeah,
about fidelity 4K at 60. right? If we can get there with some good quality, because right now on the PS5, if you max out fidelity, it's not, it's low frame rates. I mean, it's just not a smooth experience. It's 30 or worse. But if you
Yeah.
max out, so now the PS5 Pro, you don't have to make the decision. It
Yep.
defaults to a specific 4K fidelity, 60, you're in. Now, will every game be like that? That's the debate. But
So,
many games will be
so
remastered to take advantage of that.
yeah, so I want to talk about this quick while we're on the PS5 Pro. Digital Foundry did an excellent video on it. They were down at a private event to see some of the real comparisons,
Hmm.
and it was mostly a lot of adding of ray tracing. And what you're going to hear a lot in our conversations is, well, if I'm a PC gamer, I don't need that stuff. And the reason why I bring up PC gaming is that even with a 4090, I know the limitations to those graphics cards. So I think a lot of people look at the PS5 Pro and say, look, this thing's nuts. I'm not getting it. Forget it. But the thing is, even though we have PS5 games now on the PC, we're getting them years later. So the
Hmm.
new Ghost of Tsushima sequel, it's called something else. We won't see that on PC for probably 2 years. God of War Ragnarok just made it to PC this week, 2 years later. So the thing is, if you want kind of PC quality on the PS5, you're going to have to get the Pro. In that regard, it's a bargain, even at $700, considering if you're a PC gamer, your graphics cards cost thousands, your CPUs cost thousands. But I think I can see the value in it, FOMO, especially if you have a larger TV.
Right.
But I think the misnomer is locking things at 4K 60. It's impossible. You can't lock Black Myth Wukong at 4K 60. These games are already too advanced for the PS5. My point is the PS5 Pro is already underpowered,
Hmm.
right? So you need to, like SB Digital saying, PS5 Pro enhanced games, you should go back to your library and reformat those. The problem is you're taking the disk drive away. So for those of you that have that library at home, that's where I think it's rubbing people the wrong way. But I do think it's needed. I just think the price caught people off guard. I'll definitely get it because I'll play that second Ghost of Tsushima FOMO at launch versus waiting 2 years from now. So it
And
is, I think, but
no, I was going to address what you said about 4K. Getting it to 60 is really hard, and this is kind of T11
it
is
won't be
really
native.
essentially responding to that. It's not 4K per se.
No.
They're taking it to 1440p, and with PSSR plus AI,
Yep.
upscale it to 4K, so it looks indistinguishable from 4K.
Yeah.
Although we know it isn't, because as you
Yeah.
and I have seen just on TV reviews, 1080p to 4K looks amazing. So it's 1440p to 4K with additional AI at the game engine level. We're not asking the TV to do it. Is going to be convincing enough that you can get 1440p PSSR AI upscaling to 4K and get 60 FPS target. I think that's their goal. But you're right. If it was native 4K, no. And
No.
they know
And
that.
And even to T111's point is, and this is where I think it's a little bit of a cop out, even modern titles with a top of the line graphics card need DLSS to get
Hmm.
4K 120.
Hmm.
The problem is, and you said this about 1080p, these TVs are too large for 1080p. In my opinion, they're too large for 1440p. I just recently with the Hisense did 1080p at 240, and it looks terrible. Just that the TVs are too large for that in gaming.
Yeah,
In movies, it's fine, but for gaming, it's
yeah,
really
yeah.
choppy. The problem we're having, FOMO, is now these TVs are 100 inches. Even games like Astrobot that look really nice do not look good at 100 inches. You can see the aliasing, and that's what the PS5 Pro is looking to clean up, is those aliasing. And then we talked about this, FOMO, that mixture of 40 FPS that they did with Ratchet and Clank and Spider-Man and some other games, that was a cool thing for a little while. Now they're not doing that. So now you have performance, which looks not great, quality, which looks decent as long as you don't move. The minute you move, it's unplayable. That's why people are picking performance, because quality is not playable. It literally, even if it was a 30 frames, it's a choppy 30 frames. It's not smooth. And that's what
And
looks bad on TVs.
so I think this is a good, oh, before we jump into the segue for what TV is the best for PS5 Pro. So we're going to go over the different brands and their features. Sony Pony wants to ask you, Brian, are you picking up a Pro or are you just waiting for the new 5090, the NVIDIA one that's
So
going to come out later this year?
So, and then someone else here just said, "Dude, people comparing PC with PS5 Pro." I didn't compare them. What I'm telling you is, PC gamers are going to say they're not buying the Pro because they're going to get these games down the road. What I'm telling you is, if you have a Steam or a PC, you're going to be waiting until the cows come home. Them launching this new console, you're going to see less games on PC now. They're going to slow that down. Otherwise, there's no reason to buy it. Now, for a Sony Pony, I had no desire to buy the PS5 Pro at all, and I'll tell you why. I barely use my PS5. I really use that to show you guys what console games look like. Why? Because they're available on PC. That ends once this console launches. So now, if I want the newest Sony games, I am going to have the PS5 Pro, and I will get it. I think, like FOMO, it's interesting to me to have the best possible image and to show you guys the best image. I just don't like that it's not only has a huge cost, but the fact that it doesn't come with a stand. And I think no disk drive for the fact that you should have PS5 Pro enabled games is a huge error. Because people really want to. When we got the Xbox FOMOs that were the Xboxes that had the up conversion, people couldn't wait to put in their discs. Right, you go back to your catalog and saying which game is, or even the PS5 Pro, which game, or PS4 Pro, which games are enabled. Let me go in my collection. That's gone. So that's it. So my point short, I'll get the 5090 and I'll get the PS5 Pro, just not at launch.
Makes sense. So
but I will not.
We're gonna.
I think Buddy said he got beat out due to scalpers already. I didn't think
only on the 30th anniversary edition.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean that thing's $1,000. The regular, which I got the regular base $799 for just a PS5, whatever. Actually got two of them, right? I got one, my son got one, not a big deal. But the 1,200, I think 12,000. There's only 12,000 made, so of course those will sell out. And scalpers do what they do. I'm not interested in the 30th anniversary edition, so it's not a big deal. So the first hour, we gave Sony a chance to say why their TVs are great for PS5 Pro or PS5. And I thought it was amazing that, thankfully, Sony TVs actually do have a direct connection to the PS5, specifically tone mapping. Specifically, it's their version of HGIG. So those of you who have Sony TVs, at least the 2024 models and probably some of last year's models, you have that direct connection. You're good to go. And that's a great TV for the PS5 Pro as well. Now, we're going to talk about Samsung TVs for the PS5 Pro because Samsung may not have the direct connection, but what they do have that I think works perfectly with 4K 60, and we're not going to debate whether the 4K looks good on 4K 60, just having locked 60 allows the Samsung to then, you can disable VRR and go straight into Game Motion Plus. Yep. So my opinion, 4K 60 plus Game Motion Plus on any Samsung TV capable of Game Motion Plus, it's going to look very good. And Brian, what are your thoughts? Because I know we review Samsung TVs, and I know KG loves Game Motion Plus, right? I mean, I think those who use it, and if you don't use it, guys, turn off VRR, enable Game Motion Plus, make sure your game's at 4K 60. Tell me how smooth it looks, because basically it's doubling the frame rate. You're getting the perception of 4K 120, because now the TV is doubling the frame rate, so it's smoother, and the latency is preserved, and it's in game mode so that they make sure to optimize the image quality. And if you have the S95B, S95C, S95D, S90D, S90C, wow. Those are all great TVs for the PS5 or PS5 Pro. And Brian, I know you've been playing with that. What are your thoughts on Samsung?
So, I didn't really care much about, KG talked about it last year. We all talked about it, but he really used it and liked it. I didn't care for it, but I will say during certain games, like Ghost of Tsushima, for instance, the picture doesn't even dim perceptually. And it does seem much smoother, where a game like Last of Us, I could see that it had dimmed a little bit and the image quality seemed a little bit darker. But Sony, here's the funny thing about Sony. You just had the guys on. PlayStation is PlayStation. That's how they look at it, as PlayStation. They don't look at themselves as Sony PlayStation. They're very separate. And PlayStation for years would cater to the best selling TV brands, that being probably Samsung, which is number one in the world. So they wanted to have 1440p capabilities on the PS5 that Sony didn't have. So both LG and I think Samsung, well, now all of them have these features, 144, which doesn't mean anything for PS5. But having these abilities is so important. Samsung is probably top having that feature that you're discussing, because it's both console and PC, which I think is pretty amazing.
And I want to hit this comment, which I think this is an important comment because it's not just Sony. So people who single out Sony, PS5 Pro is a shameless cash grab. We haven't even scratched the surface of PS5 capabilities, and Sony isn't even developing great games. We're just getting remasters of PS4 games. Okay, so let's just talk about cash grabs in general. Those of you who are even familiar with NVIDIA graphics cards, oh my gosh, reissuing 4060 versions that don't perform better, right? I mean, all these companies are looking to grab cash. To be fair to everyone, as consumers, you're all suckers. We're all suckers. You either let them grab your cash or you don't. But there is no non-cash grab anything, whether it's Microsoft, whether it's Xbox, Sony, NVIDIA, AMD, I don't care who it is. So shameless cash grab is literally the definition of capitalism. I'm not defending, I'm just saying, it's not a reason not to get the PS5 Pro, but it is a reason to save money and, get a PS4 if it's good enough, right? So we're here not to say, oh, this is not a cash grab, but rather, man, everything out there is a cash grab. And so I think this is more of, to me, it's a commentary on, we got to wake up and accept that Uber is a cash grab, surge pricing is a cash grab. If you live in the USA, you open the door and stuff is falling out of your pockets because it's a cash grab.
But just some dude's comments aren't saying. Can this comment back up, please?
Oh, no. Okay, go ahead.
Yeah. So what you're saying isn't the same thing. Saying it's a cash grab, I understand that. Saying you haven't scratched the surface, it's already obsolete. It's not nearly.
Oh, okay. So let me get to that point. So what just some dude is saying is that the PS5 hardware, there's still some headroom, and you're saying no, PS5 is too weak. Even the PS5 Pro is not strong enough.
Look, the CPU, they're 3 or 4 generations behind. Look, it's fact. But what you are correct on is what you see is if they had more innovation titles. PlayStation in its past, with the first God of Wars, could make amazing games with the PS2. So what I think you want to say is also they are not innovating in terms of their own games. That's a different thing than them releasing a new console. Releasing a new console has nothing to do with their lack of their game studio's ability to churn out new titles that are innovative. You're absolutely right. All we have now in Hollywood and in gaming is sequel, remaster, sequel. That's not the same thing as releasing the console. So to your point, yes, there isn't a lot of innovation in gaming itself. Look at Call of Duties. They make so much more money than a game innovating. But I think what you're missing is that you think they have more to squeeze out. They do not. In terms of modern games, whether they're optimization or not, they cannot do these games. They cannot render. PS5 had a hard time with PS4 couldn't do 1080p. So the PS4 Pro was designed to do 1080p, right, FOMO? Xbox Series X, Xbox, these guys come out underpowered. This generation was very underpowered. It could not do 4K 60. It should have. They were talking about 8K. So to say that there's more left in the tank, there isn't really, unless they get super creative, and they're not doing that. So I see what you're saying. It is a cash grab. It always is. But those that want the best graphics have to move on to PC because these games are just too demanding. But to say that there's more left for them to squeeze out, there is not. There's only so much you can do with the small CPU, the storage. They're trying so much in these little boxes. That's why, FOMO, in terms of PC parts, the PlayStation is actually a bargain for what it is.
Oh, yeah.
Now, my issue is this real quick. To say it's going to do 4K 60 going forward forever is impossible. These games get harder and harder. Like maybe with these next games, not within the game next year. There's no way they can manage that. So it's always going to be a super resolution that you're buying. So really what it is, FOMO, it's just really an upgrade to get ray tracing, and better frame rates. That's all it is. And for those of you that have the money, it's worth it for that.
And I want to hit Wally Tiger's comment because this is pretty important. Why is 60 FPS the standard in 2024? It should be 120 FPS. So Wally, you have to look at the
It's a
budget.
great.
I mean, if I have $5,000 to burn on a PC build, it better be higher than 120, right? If I have
Yeah,
$700 to spend, whether it's a PS5 Pro or to build my own TV, 4K with good fidelity, 4K 60 actually is probably what I'm going to get for $700. And so, Wiley, I understand what you're saying, but what's the budget? Look at the Switch, right? The Switch, they don't care about
yeah,
60 FPS or anything. So 60 FPS is just playable enough, but it's not so much a standard, but rather what is the
yeah,
budget? And I'll tell you now, and many people know, the PS5 Pro or the PS5 or the Xbox, there's very little margin there. You're buying it at near cost. So you could easily build a better performing PC for more, but 60 FPS at a budget cost, that's what we're talking about as the
yeah,
standard. I
yeah.
think 120 would be great, but locked 120 on a $700 console? Heck no.
Well, and FOMO, the funny thing too is this is the misnomer of marketing versus reality. The Xbox One and the PS4 wanted 1080p 60. They couldn't do 1080p and they couldn't do 60. So what we got was 1080p. No, we had 930 for years until the Pro came out and then we had the new Xbox come out. That's before the PS5. Now, PC has been doing 1080p 60 for 20 years, 15 years, however long it's been out. They've also been doing 4K 60, but they're paying a premium for that. Consoles, and I think FOMO, the misnomer is that 4K 60 is easy. It's still impossibly hard to run. That's why the joke of 8K is absurd.
Hmm.
It's absurd. I can run 8K on the 4090 if the game is 15 years old, or if I use DLSS. So to think a console is going to do it, and guys, I mean, I think 60 is where everything is nice and smooth and playable. And that's what I think is hard. You guys have been fed 1080 or 4K 60 is easy. It is not easy for many graphics cards. So I think it's really hard to think that these consoles are going to do it.
Hey, Scott, haven't seen you in a while, buddy. Brian,
Yeah.
do you play World
All
of
right.
Modern Tanks? I've seen it, I've heard of it, I haven't had a chance.
No. What is that? Is that a
It's
kind
it's uh it's it's multiplayer, and I think it's kind of like Battleship with tanks. I
of?
get, I haven't played it, so I've seen images of it. I just haven't had time to explore all the amazing games that are out right now. Um, so so let me ask you this, Brian. I personally enjoy Samsung TVs in general, and I love that they're great for gaming. You, however, actually prefer LG's G4. And
Yep.
let's just talk LG in general, because you were impressed by the LG non-OLED TVs this year for gaming as well. So
Yep.
make the argument to me, how is LG great for the PS5 Pro? Other than, okay, it's an OLED, it's great, but specifically, what do you think makes the LG, whether it's a C4, B4, or G4, great for gaming, beyond the obvious it's an OLED?
Well, I mean, beyond the obvious of the OLED, for Samsung first, finishing with Samsung, for me, it's important is that, and I'd say the weakness of Sony, if we go back to Sony, is the
Hmm.
image is what it is in many ways. They have three different genre settings with their new products, and they do look a little more saturated from one another. However, brightness preferred and gradation preferred look very similar.
Hmm.
Live color is
Hmm.
not that impactful. Samsung goes the other way. If you want it to look supernatural, we have original. If you want it to look super poppy, we have sports. If you want it to look a certain way, we have custom. We have
Hmm.
active and static presets look very different.
Hmm.
HDR10 plus gaming looks very different. Their form of HCIG looks even more different. So I like about their form of HCIG, it's not even called HCIG for a
No, they
Samsung,
don't. Right,
is that
right.
it
I think it's
looks like,
static, right? Static mode
yeah,
is the HEIG.
yeah, but it looks like a pumped up original. The point is, you can change the image. If you're playing a game like Astrobot, you want that to be very cartoony, you can. If you're playing something like Ghost of Tsushima or Last of Us, it can look very good. Sony has a very good looking game mode. It just looks kind of the way it looks. LG has some of that as well. What I like about LG's is being able to do the dark areas, the black stabilizer. With a lot of lifted, as you see gaming tech, which we plan on speaking to, a lot of these HDR titles have lifted blacks.
Hmm.
LG gives you the ability to use the black stabilizer and also define dark areas. You can bring that all the way down. Keep the HDR impact and then make the image look crushed even if you want to. So they have that ability. Plus the HDMI 2.1 having 4 of them, having HDIG, Dolby Vision gaming. But I do prefer G4 in terms of its peak brightness. That specular highlights is more impactful to me than the S95D and the S90D by a smidge. But we're just, those are the top right there.
Sebastian has a great question. Which TV should I get if sports is my number one priority? So I have 2 TVs, budget TV, TCL QM7, any size. And, higher end TV, they're all good for sports, honestly. Bravia 9. So among the non-OLEDs, Bravia 9, QN90D, QN85D, Bravia 7, right? I'm thinking of non-flagship TVs. Flagship mini LED, Bravia 9 obviously is great. TCL QM8 is, a little affordable than those, but also that's also great for sports. Motion is fine. All the TVs are doing well in motion now. The QN900D, obviously the 8K, their specialty this year is sports motion. Not that I saw a big difference, but that's there. Among OLED TVs, you have to be careful because not all of them are bright enough for all sports. The G4 would be my preference, first and foremost. I mean, since they all cost similarly at that level, G4, S95D, and the A95L. If sports is your priority, just get the G4, right? You don't care about that extra color volume at certain luminances. You just need good contrast, you need good motion, and all of that, it happens well with the G4. Alternatively, you can look at the S95D, but it stops at 77-inch. 83-inch G4, that's my OLED recommendation for the best sports watching TV you can get. And everything else, TCL QM7 is where it starts at very good quality for a price. What are your thoughts on the best sports TV for you, Brian?
I concur. I mean, I think we talked about the lack of dimming on the G4. You actually exhibited that when the G4 came out. And the 900D is excellent. Any of the Neo QLEDs are excellent. The sports alone, it's just you want to stay away from some of the OLEDs because if you're watching hockey, because the ABSL is still strong. But otherwise,
Yeah.
your recommendations are spot on. What's up, buddy?
I'm so sorry, buddy. I think you meant to sneak this one in for Derek and Larry, right? Gigabit Ethernet ports on TVs are needed. So let's talk about this generally. Have you noticed that the Wi-Fi connections or the USB connections have higher bandwidth than the actual Ethernet connections on the back of your TV? I'll tell you why. This is my theory. And it's just, they're probably thinking, look, they're using this TV for just watching content. This Ethernet port is good enough to watch basic bandwidth, HDR, 4K. This is fine. They don't need gigabit. And so on the Ethernet side, if you've noticed, the specs don't even tell you what the Ethernet specs are. It's all about Wi-Fi 7, Wi-Fi 8, 9, 10, right? Oh, I got Wi-Fi 7E. It's all about Wi-Fi. It's all about the next generation Wi-Fi. On the Ethernet, other than buying a motherboard that has gigabit connections, right? 10 gigabit or 2 or 1 or whatever, the gigabit connections or the Ethernet ports on a TV, it's an afterthought. I think they just source the cheapest part possible and they're done with it and deal with Wi-Fi because most people connect with Wi-Fi. Like, okay, so let me ask you, Brian, do you care what your Ethernet speed is when you buy a TV?
I really don't. I mean, even though I have gigabit speed and I'm Etherneted in, I think to your point, I don't care simply because if the capability is not there on either end, it serves no point. How many times we had the better option on the TV but didn't have the actual ability to get it there? Whether it's 1080p before there was Blu-ray. So it's always going to be that way. And quickly with gaming, what's interesting too, FOMO, is even as far back as the KS8000 and those TVs, there was very heavy motion blur in a lot of those TVs. And the thought was from the companies, well, you're not really going to game on this TV. It's $12,000. But the Z9D had terrible motion response.
Yeah.
And a lot of the response back then was, are you really going to buy that for gaming? You're like, yes. So they do think about that when they build these things. Is come on, that's good enough for what they're using. They try to save money where they can.
Yeah. Now, T11 has a great follow-up question. So if you guys missed my stream yesterday on the U9N and the Bravia 9, at the very end, someone asked, hey, can you compare motion? So I put them on my favorite Army of the Dead, terrible motion, and the Sony just was so terrible. Nothing I did solved the stutter, which was shocking to me, right? So normally on any Sony TV that I've ever had, all the flagships, Cinemotion on high and then motion flow on one, camera smoothness on one, fixes it, and it still has cinema blur. And there is very little noticeable soap opera, in my opinion. And I did it yesterday, and nothing worked. I went max out, and nothing worked. And so I called Sony directly, and they're like, why don't you restart the TV? And Classy texted me the same thing. So, phone, you got to restart the Bravia 9. I did a hard restart, and it fixed it. And so in speaking to Classy further, apparently this current crop of Sony TVs, and this is, I'm going to have to do a video on this. Generally speaking, if you're doing a setting that you know normally does something and it doesn't do anything, you have to restart and try that setting again. And so I've never had this issue on any other Sony TV until this Bravia 9, and it's not a firmware update. No, just restart, like on the software side. Yeah, I didn't want to go for the hard first. I just wanted to try the restart. So when you go to a system and then you go scroll down, it says restart, hit the restart, boom, reboots. And then the settings all worked. And then at that setting that I thought it would work perfectly, which is motion flow at 1 and cinema motion high and camera smoothness at 1, nailed it. It was perfect. It looked great. So to answer your question, T111, you just have to restart the Bravia 9. I don't know why I didn't think of it, mostly because it's never happened before, but Classy told me that that's been something he's been dealing with the Bravia 9 and some other Sonys this year when he's calibrating is he has to restart it to get the settings to work. And then once it works, it sticks. But that's unfortunate.
Yeah. It's like a PC. You have to go in and get it there too to lock it in.
Yeah. You got to the reboot, right? What is this? Yeah, just reboot. Oh, it's frozen. Just reboot. So that's that. And there's some other pretty good questions I wanted to hit real quick. This is you, Brian. Once you're used to gaming at 120 on a G-Sync async screen, you can't go down to 60 FPS. And this is why I was saying 60 Game Motion Plus makes it look 120. It's not native 120, but that's how it at least looks 120 on a console. But PC gamers, I get you guys.
Yeah, but I think we have to take a second to, and FOMO, you and I were talking about this off camera. It was just a few years ago that some of the companies didn't have HDMI 2.1. Right, that PCs were even stuck at 4K 60. So it is amazing that we have TVs with 1440p, 144 hertz. I mean, I understand we have the TVs that are capable now. It's just having the consoles to catch up, which is pretty interesting. It's kind of always been that way. We had 1080p for years before look, we had 1080p TVs, FOMO, with the 360 that couldn't do 720p. So we're always kind of ahead of it, and the TVs are in a really good place, which I know is what you kind of want to talk a little bit more about, is what are the best TVs for gaming. They're actually all higher end TVs are very good now that are capable of at least 120.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, I agree. That makes sense. Brian, last question.
Yes, the S95D I already answered, Valentino. S95D is a third gen panel. If you're in Europe, it's guaranteed to be a QD OLED at the S95D. It's got better tone mapping. It's brighter. It's a better TV. Go for it. It's worth it.
Yep. If you can afford it, I did the test. It is better tone mapping. It goes brighter. And this takes us to non-big three TVs for gaming. So we're talking TCL, Hisense, really, the small two, right? You got the big three, and then you have the new two. I don't know how to call them, the up-and-comers from China. So 144 hertz gaming on both of them, it's still early. Like you said, Brian, it's not playable, right? Now, and let's talk about just console gaming on them in general. I found their image quality to be fine. It's not offensive. It could be better. But Brian, what are your thoughts on gaming? Because you've had the U7N, the QM8, right? The U8K. You have enough Hisense TCL TVs the last 2 years now. Generally speaking, how are they for console gaming? We know PC gaming is its own beast.
So what really separates the big three, that would be Sony, LG, Samsung, and now Panasonic, especially in console gaming, is clarity, is the clear image that you get. So the minute you have, and I think this is what Hisense and TCL are struggling with, is that they're trying to do this 144 boost. They're trying too hard to give you all the bells and whistles when the image quality is just not as clean. That's why like the QNED 89 looked great. It still has that LG look to it. Samsung QN90D, Sony X90L, they're OLEDs. The game modes are just crystal clear, where I think the other companies are still trying to get that. Because think about this, FOMO, a lot of their processing is disabled.
Hmm.
If their processing is not quite with the big three yet, it's going to suffer even more when that gaming processing is disabled to some degree.
Right.
Right. So each manufacturer loses like XR Clear with gaming, but Sony still has that processing. Same with Samsung and LG. I feel like the other ones, it shows up more in gaming than it does in regular content. It's just not as clear.
Yeah, I've noticed that. Hmm.
And I see like when you go to the, and you might know this too, FOMO, going into the HDMI settings, it'll say 120 standard, then there's the 144 boost. I think going to the 120 is good enough, but I didn't notice that really helping the image quality at all. So I feel like they're kind of always forcing that frame rate. And, I played, Hisense has a Black Myth Wukong setting, and it's virtually unplayable because it blurs. So that is up to processing more than what the panel's capable of. And I think that's where these companies are lagging. I'd rather see you get a clearer image from the big three or big four than the step-down TVs. But they're great feature set. The gaming is just not as clear.
This is a great question, Brian, because, and I'll tell you why it's a great question. Lazy Prepper asks, you have $5,000. What TV do you get? And this is your only TV, right? This is your desert island TV in your house. $5,000 means there is no G483 inch on the cards. So 5,000 can get you any 77-inch TV you want, and it can get you a Bravia 9 85-inch, barely, just there.
Just
what TV
there.
would you get? What TV would you get for 5,000?
Or overall?
For you. This is just, what TV do you get?
So I would say Bravia 9, simply because, or that would be an 83-inch OLED, but there's not an 83-inch OLED this year other than the C4 would be an 83-inch OLED that you can consider maybe. What's the pricing there?
Let me check right now. It is $5,000. The C4 is exactly $5,000 right now.
But that said, we talked about this. The Bravia 9, that extra size is noticeable on the Bravia 9. So where on a Samsung QN900D, the size isn't noticeable because the bezel is so tiny. We said that, FOMO. Sometimes it looks smaller than an 83-inch OLED. But for overall TV viewing, the Bravia 9 is still the best 85 in the business for high end.
So there you go. You nailed it. He won't even get an OLED because he's afraid of burning. So Bravia 9, 5,000, great price.
And 85 that's why the minute you add in 85 TV has to be of much higher quality. It can't be a cheaper 85. That's why you're saying 5,000 is a good budget. If you had less money, that's when I'd say go for a 77-inch OLED over a 75. That's where the sizes hurt these TVs. 85 wins, but 77 beats 75 if your budget was less.
Yeah. And which one is TCL and which version? I need context. I think I missed part of the question here. Other than for gaming, get a TCL QM7. Try that out.
Don't go below.
Let me know.
Don't go below the QM. I always feel like with those brands, QM7, QM8.
QM7. Stay at QM7 or better. Yeah,
U7, U8. Don't drop below. Then you really start getting into different panels that you're not going to like.
Right. Yeah. Now here's a good question. Jesse wants to know: is Sony still a big TV brand? Right. It's kind of throwing it out there. From what I have found, both TCL and Hisense outsold Sony, and Sony is a legacy TV brand, but not a big TV brand to me. So, Jesse, you're correct. If you say big, as in how many TV is being sold right now, Samsung is number one. LG, Hisense, and TCL are right there at number two. They're just And LG is losing ground every year. Eventually, TCL and Hisense will be number two,
Yep.
and they're right now neck and neck with each other. And in China, those two are probably the biggest sellers, Hisense and TCL. Now, so if you say by volume, Sony is way back. I mean, it's not even it's like a distant number four. It's not
Yeah.
just fourth or fifth. It's
Mhm.
way behind Hisense, TCL. And so the issue is partly it's the Sony price, the tax. It's not cheap. And they only have a few models, right? This year, you got the Bravia 7, Bravia 8, Bravia 9, just three
Yep.
models, and those are all expensive. You got the El Cheapo Bravia 4, but we know for that price, I get the QM7
Yeah.
all day long, right?
Well,
So,
and I get what Jesse's saying, but this is the Ford versus Ferrari conversation. You
yes, yes.
you want a Ferrari or do you want a Ford? So there's part of that that sounds a little bit snooty, but the fact of the matter is their lack of selling volume has got nothing to do with quality. These TVs that sell less quality and a million more numbers will always beat. But if you're basing your discussion on which TV is the best TV, it'll very rarely be the best selling TV. Almost
Hmm.
never. The Bravia 9 does not sell well. These TVs don't sell well that are the highest end, but
And
you're
that would
buying
include the G4 too. The G4 doesn't
more.
sell
Yeah,
as well as the
right.
B4.
But you were basing on what the best TV is, it almost never be the best selling TV. So keep that in mind when you're thinking about. I understand what he's saying is that even Panasonic, these are legacy brands. You're absolutely right, but the fact is, there's a reason why they're still in the business. Their processing is on next level. Both Sony, Panasonic, now Samsung, and LG. There is a reason why they're that level above.
Hmm.
Then now it just depends on what you want to spend on. But they're never going to outsell. I mean, TCL and Hisense very shortly we're going to pass everybody. They are.
Here's a great question. Is WOLED or QD-OLED better for the PS5 Pro? And my
What's
response would be not
up,
just
Michael?
PS5 Pro, just let's talk gaming in general.
In general. Yeah.
QD-OLED is to me better for gaming because you're going to get all that color saturation and all that color volume and luminance that WOLED is capped. It cannot get above a certain color saturation because that's the limitation of WOLED. And so with
Yeah.
QD-OLED, you can get the full spectrum more so than any movie. My understanding is in video games, these developers are pushing BT 2020 way beyond what normal movies would do. So if you really want to enjoy all that color without color banding, without having to deal with ringing or whatever that is the artifacts, right, that
Yeah.
comes with posterization on a
Yeah.
WOLED, you have to go with a QD OLED. And among QD OLED, really the Samsung QD OLED is either that or Sony. Give the Samsung QD OLED for gaming over a similar WOLED. Now, it is not to say the G4 is a bad TV. Secondly, the QD OLED has better uniformity than
But
WOLED. But I do recognize that WOLED on the G4, the C4, you get HGIG that might be more accurate. I mean, you have features, but if we're just limiting it to the panel quality and panel technology, QD
yeah.
OLED is better. But you have to throw in the OS, the features, Tizen,
Yeah.
WebOS. That
Yep.
may be more important. So, Brian, what are your thoughts on that? Because I know you chose the G4. That's a WOLED.
Yeah. So the G4 to me is because it's just so impactful. I've gamed on all these with the same games, but to your point, the biggest strength for the QD OLED for me, more so than just the color FOMO, which is obviously big, the screen uniformity is a huge deal because in gaming, because we have so many games that have terrible HDR, it raises the blacks. When the blacks
Hmm.
are raised, when you pan, even though it's not LG's fault or WOLED's fault, it shows the banding. It also shows the zones on or dirty screen effect that you see on LEDs. It just so happens that QD OLEDs are very efficient and they have the best screen uniformity of any technology. To me, that's definitely worth it in games, especially when you're panning and you're looking around. More cinematic titles, FOMO, I can't tell you how many games I've had to crush the blacks because there's just lines up and down the screen. Now, they're not perfect. QD OLEDs do have screen uniformity issues as well, but to me, that's the best selling point by far is screen
Yeah,
uniformity.
agreed. And yeah, and I'm going to agree with SP Digital because this goes to both of our points. If you have the LG MLA, which is a G4, the Samsung
Yep.
or the Sony QD OLEDs, they all look great. I mean, when we say, well, this is slightly better here and there, we're talking, I have to pick hairs, but
Yeah.
ultimately, if any of these TVs end up on your doorstep, great for gaming and all great for PS5 Pro. I
Well,
think because these flagships are designed to do these things very well.
yeah. And I mean, OLEDs in general, even the sharp OLED, you're talking that contrast ratio is so important because the resolution is so evident in gaming. Even these upscaled 1440p, they're not upscales. They're literally using frame insertion. They're using DLSS. They're using frame generation. So it doesn't look like upscaling used to look. It's not blurry. But that micro contrast gets right into the resolution. Where movies, if they're filmed pale, they look pale. Gaming, the higher end resolution is evident. And that's why mini LEDs, no matter how great they can't penetrate that. They can't bring you that three-dimensional look the same way. So even a B3 or an A80J or one of these sharps looks amazing. Or the Z85, these all look great. So to me, they'll beat any LED, period, no matter how many frames there are.
Here's a great question for you, Brian. I'll have you start this one. What are your expectations for the next gen console? So right now we only have the PS5 Pro, which is I'd say half gen
Yeah.
refresh. The
So
next
mid,
gen,
like,
Microsoft is probably 2 to 3 years off at least. So let's just talk about this mid-gen refresh for the PS5 Pro. What is your expectation? 4K 60 steady? And how
no.
about true next gen, 2 years from now? What is your expectation?
Well, the real what it should be 4K 60. They're already late to the party. It should be 4K 120 or
Should be, but
FOMO.
expectation.
My
Expectation.
expectation will be 4K 120, but the same way the PS5 is doing 4K 60, a DLSS version of it or whatever they're calling it.
Okay.
That's what I think they're going to do in 2 years. But think about what I'm saying. The 4090 and these graphics cards can do 4K 120 right now, and but not all the time. These graphics cards, you're talking about the PS5 or PS6, 2 or 3 years, they'll be doing what GPUs are doing right now. So that's the benchmark. The 4090 and those graphics cards can do 4K 120. So I imagine that the PS5 or PS6 will be aiming for 4K 120, but it won't be native. It'll be the
And
same conversion.
well, and a big reminder for many of you that the 4090 or the coming 5090, how much do they cost?
Yeah,
One
two
chip,
grand, 2 grand.
it costs so much more than the entire. So we
Yeah,
can't expect, even two
yeah,
years from now, it's so hard to expect these consoles to be selling at whatever, $700 or 800 maybe in 2 years to compete even with a last gen 4090, that's $2,000. And we
yeah.
haven't even thrown in the CPU, right? Whether it's a top-notch i9, i7, or AMD.
And they
I
never
mean,
are. They're all
right?
AMD.
So when you combine those two, you got $3,000 already, and you haven't had the case. You have nothing. Just the
Well,
two
but
graphics card and the CPU,
then
and you got three grand.
you're talking about things like a 4090 melting the case. Like the
Yeah, yeah, and the
4090 is
PSU.
bigger.
So you have to have a special PSU. You got to have a cooling system, right? So
It's
yeah,
bigger than the Switch. The
yeah,
freaking thing is bigger than the Switch. I mean, it's bigger than a console. So I think console gaming. But I think what's great that we're kind of overlooking too, FOMO, is again, it wasn't long ago that gaming from the couch and PC were all separate. We are getting pretty amazing results now. The consoles are just behind. The TVs look so good. They're big. I think too, FOMO, we didn't mention this. I think the TVs are bigger than the consoles thought they were going to get. I really don't think a lot of these manufacturers thought that people would be buying 100-inch TVs yet. I think 85 didn't even have its time in the sun yet. So that higher resolution is definitely needed for larger titles. The last
hmm
few PS5 games I bought, other than Street Fighter, maybe Tekken, they don't look good to my eye because they're not even 4K. They just look muddied. And even Astrobot, as good looking as that game is, I can see all the aliasing and all the dithering. And I'm just used to PC where they're still dithering. So these big TVs, that is the drawback right there. And that's why they need to
yeah.
do this. If these TVs were all smaller monitors, you could keep 1080p.
Well, the one thing that really hit me when I was watching the live stream with Plasma Gaming TV and in layman's terms and Gaming Tech, right, our friends,
Yep.
they were very correct. On a small phone, you don't need 60 FPS. You could have 1080p at 30 FPS and it looks phenomenal. But you take that small phone and you blow it into a 77-inch TV, and suddenly
Yeah.
30 FPS is not acceptable. So
Yeah.
the bigger your TV gets, right, 100-inch, 120-inch, suddenly everything is a little bit more important. So that's why, the largest OLED you can get, at least you solve the contrast issue. And now let's focus on frame rates or what, I mean, it's just larger gameplay makes it that much easier to see the flaws. So
Yeah.
this is a great question or response. So I want to get into WOLED, QD-OLED, tandem OLED technology, and all that stuff. So everything you're hearing coming out, including my news about tandem, FOLED, hybrid FOLED, right? These are all going to be implemented on small form factors at least for the next 2 years, and this is why. First, all the factories that are being, if you hear Gen 6.5, Gen 8.5, that's all IT-sized products, phones, tablets, maybe monitors, right? There are no Gen 10 factories using tandem OLED right now, or any next gen, anything, because they want to figure it out on the smaller form factors first for durability and people, it's cheap enough, they throw it away if they don't like it, whatever, right? They can get through that learning process before, if ever, they bring it to a larger format. And secondly, they're super expensive. It's one thing to have a tiny micro LED on a watch, right? And that ends up being a $1,000 product. So let's say I have my Apple
I
iWatch,
got the
Apple
new
Watch Ultra.
whatever. I
Yeah,
got the
the
Ultra.
Samsung, whatever, right?
It
Okay,
looks great.
when I see this
Happening.
and it's like $900, it's expensive, but I don't have to hold
Yeah,
on to it for
no
several
doubt.
years, right? But imagine how much is it going to be if it was a 77-inch TV? Uh,
Yeah,
it's not micro LED or micro LED, but if it
yeah,
was and it was 1100, that's one thing. But on a TV, and so when you see the tandem OLED stuff on smartphones, that's a pretty expensive smartphone with a very expensive
yeah,
panel. Take that to 65 inches, no one's going to be buying it. So
yeah.
it's when can they bring, when can they create the tooling and the volume necessary? So let's get into volume. If mini LED and LCD TVs from Hisense and TCL continue to outsell OLED, it may never happen because
Yeah.
now LG Display is like, wait, we could do it, but I need to sell, I'm going to make up an example. I need to sell 1 million TVs. And I'm seeing that right now, I'm only selling 500,000. I,
Yep.
I can't build a factory and sell 500,000 and recoup any of that. I need to sell
Yeah.
1 million because you people want to buy larger mini LEDs for the same price as my amazing tandem 65 inch. And
So
so I
this,
have a feeling we're not going to get there
and
at
that's the
all,
same reason.
ever.
That's the same reason why I don't think you're going to see an 83-inch QD OLED. I don't think they think it's worth it. I think they're thinking to themselves, they're going to, because we saw that when the G4 came out, everyone's like, well, it's only 83 inches now. Speaking of that, Getty G-Man, 100-inch Hisense right
Getty.
on time. Would you call him in? What's up, G-Man? Getty, what's
Wait.
happening?
If he has 100-inch, does that mean he needs a PS5 Pro? So let me convince Getty why he needs a PS5 Pro.
You
Because
definitely need one. Yes, you do.
because Pagonis is like, it's just a scam, right? So maybe we'll have to see how good it really is. So Getty,
Yeah.
why is it a worthy upgrade? When you have a TV that large, you need more FPS, higher frame rate, right? And especially at that size. And we were talking about 100-inch TVs. They emphasize everything, every flaw. And 30 FPS PS5 games, very flawed. Going to 60 makes a whole world of difference, right? And 4K 60 is the ideal of the PS5 Pro. So if you're gaming on the PS5 getting and you're completely happy, don't upgrade. But if you're gaming on the PS5 and you're noticing, man, I can't stand 4K 30, and when I go to 4K 60, it's not really 4K anymore. It's like whatever 60, right? Then maybe the PS5 Pro for that game, solid
Yeah.
4K fidelity at 60 would be worth it. But if you're enjoying PS5 right now, I don't see a reason to upgrade. But Brian,
No.
what are you telling people when they're asking you if they should upgrade?
So it's hard because like games like Stellar Blade, games that you put them in that quality preset, and they literally, I don't even know why they call it 30, because if it was 30 smooth, it's like this. Doop, 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 doop. It's not playable. So the games look fine when you're playing a lot of motion and you're not really looking at it. But as far as the best fidelity, you have to upgrade to it for this one reason. If you want the best fidelity, you have to. That's what I'm saying. Is like, so if you need the best of the best and that's your mindset, it is definitely worth getting. If you're somebody who's a casual gamer, and when I say casual, I don't mean hardcore, you play a lot, because a lot of times hardcore gamers don't care about fidelity. But if you're the person that wants the best image quality for PS5 Pro, they're also going to lean harder, FOMO. The fact that they're releasing this console, they're going to do less optimization on regular PS5 titles. So it's going to be, hey, if you want the best one, they did that with the PS4. The PS4 Pro, once it came out, they made games for that. The new games looked terrible on the regular PS4. Do you see what I'm saying? The bar is now going to be up. So I think if you're getting a new console, I get it. If you're casual, you don't care what the image quality is that much. But that defeats the purpose of what we're talking about, Phil. We're talking about image quality for a lot of times with these TVs. We very rarely talk about performance only. We're TV channels, we talk mostly about image quality. And in that case, it's worth it because there's no choice.
Yeah.
Like a perfect example, FOMO, my Xbox Series X, I gave it to my daughter. That thing cost me $1,000 during our shutdown, right?
Right, because you had the behind the parking lot purchase special.
Yeah, right. Here's the thing. I would never in a million years play with that over a PC. It's nowhere near good enough looking, right? So there definitely needs to be. And now, when it first came out, maybe, not now. Like Dying Light 2, I played it in performance, I played it in resolution. I just couldn't find one that looked good. And plus, they had these now also, FOMO, where they would add ray tracing, but it would it would be really low resolution with ray tracing.
Yeah.
So, and ray tracing is what they're really trying to push here because it adds all the reflections that a lot of people want. But now Digital Foundry also found that the ray trace version wasn't as stable. That's a problem. We're used to stable and looking good. So, the no disc is
right. And DJ, thank you for keeping me on topic. TCL or Hisense gaming suggestion. Console gaming, I just want the best price, best TV, bang for the buck, so forth. It would be the TCL QM7 right now. I mean, I for gaming, I always suggest getting the latest TVs because the chipsets are always more advanced most of the time. Everything is a little bit faster. So when the firmware updates come, your TV is that much better. And so this year, my TV of choice for the value, everything, movies, streaming, just everything, QM7. I really like it. And then for one step above, the U8N is the poor man's Bravia 9 to me. It actually outperformed the U9N yesterday, if you guys saw my stream. So for cinema watchers who can't afford the Bravia 9 or the Bravia 7, get the U8N. And that actually outperforms the U9N currently when it comes to image quality. Audio, obviously U9N is amazing, but it's just image quality. The tone mapping on the U8N, I don't know how, it's better. But if you want even better value with HDR impact and some gaming chops, the QM7 is where it starts. And that's $700 for a 65-inch. I cannot think of a better TV at that price. No other Big three comes close with a Samsung. You have to go at least QN85 to come close to this, and that's like almost twice the price. And with Sony, Bravia 7, almost twice the price. Panasonic, almost twice the price. So it starts with the QM7 for me.
Yeah, well, for me, it's also the U8N and the U7N. They also, same with the QM7 and QM8, FOMO, their image quality every year improves. And that for the new Hisense TVs, their gaming features and the game quality look is better than it was last year. So they are getting better. SB Digital has a great comment. Here it is. I love this. I want to stay with this. You're absolutely right. But here's where you're missing it. People are also complaining.
Wait. Can I stop right there? Only because you and I have daughters. They're like, hey, the iPhone 16 is out. Can I get it? Like, what, am I made of? In the old days, it used to be, can I get a pair of
Freaking
Converse?
watch costs more than the PS5 Pro.
Right. No, you're going to save up for your $30 pair of shoes. Now it's like $1,000. Hey.
So here's what I'll tell you, and you're absolutely right. But here's what's crazy: we have spoken to every manufacturer about this in person.
Every.
TVs are the only The only thing that is going down in price as far as things that you buy, your phones are more expensive than ever. The PCs are more expensive than ever. Everything's more expensive. But you guys want to a $400 TV. No one wants to spend like the Bravia 9 when that came out. Everyone lost their mind that it was $5,000 to 85 inches. Where the S9 the Z9D at 75 inches was $9,000, right? So the TV makers are getting squeezed as you guys want, not you guys, all of us. I'm not saying you guys. I mean it this way. This thing, yeah, these phones are $2,000. But TVs are definitely hurting. The manufacturers are hurting to try and.
Oh, they are. They are hurting.
Because speakers still cost what they cost. Receivers still cost what they cost. Turntables. All this stuff is still the same price it's been. TVs have to keep getting cheaper and cheaper and cheaper and cheaper. The same with the console. So he has a really good point. You're asking for a $700 PS5 Pro thinking it should be $500. But in reality, the Xbox One was $700 in 2007. It just was bundled. So they are going to go up in price. I think you guys are struggling with the fact that it's a mid-cycle and the fact that it doesn't have a stand and a disk drive. Now, quickly about the disk drive. Does it matter? My PC hasn't had a disk drive in years because of Steam.
Right.
But
Steam.
until PS5 and Xbox is there, we have to, part of what the PS4 Pro is saying, or PS5 Pro, is that going back to the old catalog, things upconvert. Well, a lot of people want to use their old physical discs. So it's really hard to sell that to them. Where on Steam, I bought those 10 years ago. They're all available to me, so they all get upgraded FOMO. That's why I don't care about having a disk drive on my PC. But since you've had disk drives forever, you have to keep going with them because your legacy crew has PS5 games on disc. Miles Morales is on disc for me. Horizon Zero Dawn is on disc. What do I do with those? Right? Now, PC, though, FOMO, if you put a disc in a PC, you're putting in a code of like 50 numbers.
Oh, my God. I don't have a disk drive on my PC.
So they should have abandoned it years ago. But now that they have, so maybe with PlayStation 6, you say, hey, look, I'm sorry. I know why they're doing it. They actually want you to get into that PS Plus and just download the games and upconvert them that way. That's really why they're doing it.
I have no comment because I think it's very subjective. You're either into physical media or you're not. I'm not, mostly because I'm disorganized. I cannot stand physical media. I'm too lazy to organize it, but it's not saying that you shouldn't have. It's just I cannot do it. And I stream and I understand the limitations of streaming, but for me, the convenience is there. Skull D, great question. And I say yes because Brian would
My
say
favorite
yes.
S90, my
Would
favorite.
would the S90D Samsung be a good for the PS5 Pro for gaming and 4K UHD Blu-ray movies? Obviously, I love it. S90C was my TV editor's choice last year, and this year it's slightly better, so it's still an amazing TV for gaming, for everything. PS5 Pro, get 4K 60, put it on Game Motion Plus, and be happy. Brian, what's your gaming experience with the S90D?
So the S90D was my pick for best gaming TV of the year, primarily because of value and the fact that I like the G4 better, but it's too expensive compared to the S90. S90D is a bargain.
Oh my gosh, so $1,600 for 65 inches? That's insane.
4 HDMI 2.1. It looks great on console and PC. 144 hertz. You also have, as we said, the better screen uniformity, better colors. It's bright.
Yes.
I mean, it's to me, it's the best gaming TV in the land. I mean, really.
Absolutely. I'm with you on that. It's such, because of the price. Like the C4 is a similar price, but it does not outperform the S90D across everything, including gaming. Thank you for the super chat. Go ahead.
You go with the C4 if you like LG. So
that's it.
So if you like their signature, that's where you go. But the S90D, I mean, as far as bang for the buck, you don't compromise anything. I do like the S95D better, but the price isn't. The price of the S95D is still the same price as the A95L. It's not like it's affordable.
It's dropped a few hundred. They're becoming more aggressive as you get into Black Friday, but it'll be more aggressively discounted by Black Friday than the G4. It will be very compelling by Black Friday. And thank you for the super chat, Pagonis. PS5 Pro is €800 plus. you need to buy the disk drive and a stand. Okay, I didn't know it didn't come with a stand.
Those
That's kind of. I'll have to
Well, you
tape it
want
to
to
the
have that
wall.
vertical. You want it to be vertical. It has to have the
I'll
same
be
stand.
carrying it around. That's insane. It's not right, and they know still people will
No.
buy it. So, Pagonis, I'm not going to disagree with you, and I'm going to have to throw in Apple in this mix. Remember when Apple used to give you a charging this, and they used to give you more cables than what you get? I mean, you got a full kit. Now they
Dude.
assume you have a USB-C charger, which I understand, but I'm just
Yeah,
complaining because they're
yeah,
pulling
you
so
get,
much
you get the
out.
cord. I'm like, where's the little brick? Yeah.
The cord will be missing soon because they're going to assume everyone has a cord, right? I mean,
Yeah, exactly.
eventually, you'll be lucky it comes in a box. But yeah,
Yeah,
Pagodas, it's a trend I'm seeing among more and more
yeah,
products. And you're right. I mean, and let's talk about TVs. I mean, look at the remotes that we're getting now with some of these TVs, right? We used to get two
yeah.
remote, or Europe still gets two remotes on some of their TVs. They get a small one on the Samsung and a big one. In the US, we only get one remote, and you have to go on Amazon to buy the big one to get into
Yeah.
the service menu, right? So yeah, I
Well,
got you,
look at
Pagodas.
the Panasonic one is you get the Fire TV remote. I'm like, I was using the actual my Fire TV remote instead of the Panasonic one. I was like, where the hell? But you know what? You're right. It is. This is where, if you think about getting rid of the headphone jack, it's not like they don't want to have it. It's just more about space and where's the money going to go. And I do think that
Mm-hmm.
they do want to get people away from buying the physical disc. They don't want to make them anymore. There's
Right.
no.
You know,
Here's guys. There's the manufacturing of the discs, the box art, all that stuff, shipping it, it's not something they want to do anymore. They just don't want to say it. They just don't want to do it anymore. And I think they had that secondary market for years, which is a shame for collectors. But going
mm-hmm.
into what was it called? GameStop and buying used games, they didn't benefit from that at all. You bought it once. Now, you know what I'm saying? They want you to buy new
Yeah.
games and buy them online. That's why Game Pass is so important. Um, I don't buy new games anymore at all on console, other than I buy games for you guys so I can show you. And I only buy them for the PS5.
Me too. Yeah, I was going to say I buy it for you guys as well, so I can test some of the stuff. Like I finally have to get Ghost of Tsushima to check the PS5 Pro
Yeah,
image quality because that is the standard for image quality right now.
but here's the
Thank
difference.
you again.
Here's the
Good.
difference. I won't buy it at launch. That's the difference. Before I would have bought it at launch, but here's why. If that console launched tomorrow and that Ghost of Tsushima was with it and you could see it immediately, absolutely. But I'm not going to buy
Mhm.
that to play Horizon Forbidden West at 4K 60 when I'm playing already at 4K 120.
Well,
It's like,
because you wouldn't buy it for any games that you already have on Steam because you
yep.
have a 4090.
Yeah, but my point is, it better immediately make an impact. You should release that
Yeah,
console with 3 games that are ready, are new, not remasters or
I
not.
got you. An exclusive launch only, even if it's a
Yeah,
remaster,
well, there's
launch
no
only
FOMO.
version.
Well, FOMO, there's no FOMO.
Yeah,
If you bought the PS4, the new PS5 Pro, and it had a game that I can't play, I'd have to
hmm
buy it. I spent 700 just to play that game.
That's a very good point. That's a good point.
They're not offering that. So,
How long would it? I mean, if it took them an extra 6 months to get a new game out early, even if
yeah,
it's something that isn't, I mean, it'd be great if it was like a Final Fantasy or something, but still, right?
it's got to
Exclusive
be
to the PlayStation, that would have been awesome.
a
Which
new
takes us to
Uncharted, something like that.
it segues to Pagonis's comment. PlayStation doesn't have enough competition. So essentially, if you look at the numbers, right, they work globally, PlayStation outsells Xbox, but there is also a certain following, and they know how many they need to make. They know if we make this many, whether it's the
Conquest.
30th anniversary edition or whatever, we're going to sell it through for Christmas, right?
Yeah.
Now, we're going to make just enough to sell through for Christmas, and there's going to be a demand, and there's not enough of them, then we get to flip it for double what we paid for. And you're right,
Yeah.
Pagonis, they see it every year or every launch. It happens. There is no
Well,
doubt about it.
but I think there's no competition. I think you're looking at Xbox versus PS5. It's not the case. It's PS5 versus Microsoft. Microsoft doesn't care about selling Xboxes anymore. It's Game Pass. That's what they want. They're not competing that same way. They're buying studios, whole studios. So PlayStation isn't releasing the same exclusives it once did that really set it apart. That's where they should be rocking. Like even like we're talking about What set them apart? Exclusives, not Call of Duty. And they're not really doing as many of those anymore. So to say there's no competition, there's plenty of competition. It's just that the Xbox doesn't care about selling Xboxes. They care about Game Pass. Just like TV makers care about advertising now. There's no money to be made in that regard. So they're not going to compete the same way. They're buying whole studios.
Yeah.
So yes, and Nintendo was like the Sony. They're the legacy group that just makes good games. So I understand what he's saying.
Yeah.
Good.
Speaking of legacy, Buddy Love, thank you for the super chat. I'll stop by when somebody drops the disc from PlayStation. So I guess he's stopped by.
Good.
And this is a great question. It goes back to Samsung, why we like Samsung for console gaming. Q85B, good for PS5 Pro? Yes, for 3 reasons. One, it was their best implementation, their first good implementation of ADS Pro. The Q85A was their inaugural ADS Pro, wasn't as good as the Q85B. I love this TV. ADS Pro, you guys saw color saturation off angle. Excellent. And it has Game Motion Plus, which is PS5 Pro with 4K 60. Match made in heaven. You nailed it, Edward. Don't upgrade your TV until it breaks. Hold on to it.
Yeah. Well, and that's a good thing, too, about this conversation, FOMO. We talked about this when these consoles first came out with HDMI 2.1. They're all HDMI 2.1 now. That wasn't the case 4 or 5 years ago when Sony was behind that way. Now you really don't have to upgrade, but the thing is for you guys is the image quality is what you're looking for consoles. They all can do 4K 120, the TVs. It's the 144 you don't have to chase. That's what you shouldn't chase. But with the TVs, they come anyway with the LG, Sony's, and even Panasonic.
Yeah. Oh, so Aaron is saying Stellar Blade, and I apologize if I missed Stellar Blade. What about Stellar Blade on the Pro coming with 2B from, I guess, the developer
Nier
Automata? That's the reason I'm getting to PS5 Pro. So what's the hype behind Stellar Blade? I'm kind of behind on this game.
It's a great game. It's just that it's kind of Nier Automata is kind of like it's the maker of that game loved the maker of Nier Automata's game. They're kind of a similar type games.
Okay.
Nier Automata doesn't have a great PC implemented title, but I mean, if it's going to release that game packed in, it's not going to look great anyway unless it's PS5 Pro enabled. Stellar Blade would look amazing. That's what's holding that game back. Nier Automata is just a bonus, but I don't think it's going to be PS5 Pro enabled. If it is, awesome, but I can't see it being that.
Pagonis is an equal opportunity offender. So PS5 Pro, cash grab. Now, literally, Xbox Game Pass is total trash. Every year they're losing lots of users.
I mean, you basically
I don't know about that's why they're losing users. Are they losing users to Steam? Is it because it's trash because of the pricing tiers? I'm not familiar. I mean, I use Game Pass just to download games quickly. Brian, what are you hearing about Xbox Game Pass that makes it trash?
I mean, you can say they're losing lots of users. Then you have to back that up with market research that they are. I mean, from what I understand, it was a big money maker. That's why they're sticking with it. I'm not on the stock market, but that's where it's going, whether you like it or not. Because they
cloud gaming downloads. Yeah.
But I'll tell you, well, it's not even cloud gaming, but like right now, Black Ops 6 is going to be their day one launch. It's there now. I mean, I got the demo off of Game Pass. So Game Pass, like a lot of other streaming services, in a way, games come and go. What's leaving? But a lot of these new games, I like Xbox Game Pass. I don't buy new games anymore from it. It's just a little expensive.
Yeah, that makes sense. And Jessica, thank you.
Jessica.
I have to say,
she loves the Z3. Jessica always asks.
She's a reliable comment, right? We're talking PS5 Pro, so Jessica wants to know, is the Z3 good for the PS5 Pro? I think it is. So the Z3 is LG's 8K OLED. And it's their most current 8K OLED. I think it's going to be awesome for the PS5 Pro. No complaints. Now, Now, it's 8K, so when the PS5 Pro has 8K content, if it's slow enough, right, meaning the motion on screen, you'll probably be able to see the 8K. If the motion is like first-person shooter, no, you're not going to see it. But at least on the slower cinematic scenes in 8K, yeah, you should be able to see that native resolution. Let us know, Jessica. Are you getting the PS5 Pro? Are you going to have 8K content on your Z3?
Well, Jess, what I'll say about the Z3 that what I love about the Z3 versus other 8K TVs is the contrast ratio with 8K is rich. It's a more dense image. So you'll notice even a more rich image compared to the G4. It's not as bright, but if you want the best, most rich image, the Z3 is that. There will be a Z4 though, most likely,
There will
but
be, yeah.
the Z3 is only at 77 this year. But I do like the 8K Z series more than I like Samsung's. Typically, Samsung's 4K flagships look better than the 8K flagships, FOMO. The resolution
Hmm.
doesn't help it, but in OLEDs, the resolution does help. It does give it a more rich.
Yes, you see it. Yeah. Yeah.
Yep.
You need infinite contrast before you get to 8K pixel
Yes.
resolution.
Yeah, you
Absolutely.
can see it. Oh, Classy, what's up, bro?
Hey, Maddie. And
He
I'm
wanted that.
looking
He wanted that
through.
30th anniversary, baby. You want that?
I,
I think it's.
oh, it was so. Now, I didn't wake up at five
I
in the
think it's
morning or
gray,
anything.
right? It's gray. It looks
It's,
cool.
yeah, it's great. It's
That's
cool.
been
You know, you could. I heard people are putting it on eBay already for $8,000. But they're
You're
pre-order,
fine.
right? Like, wow.
Nuts, bro.
You're welcome, Edward. All right, let's see. I'm looking for questions about the best TVs for console gaming before we go to anything else. And yeah, Classy called me yesterday when I had trouble with my Bravia 9 motion. It's like, you got to restart it. I'm like, what? This is the first time I had to restart anything on a Sony TV. Yep, and then it worked.
Call customer service. Go buy it behind the TV. Hit the power button. Hold it for 3 seconds.
Hold it down. Oh, it works now. Hey, how long do I have you for? I know it's, you're busy. You're
I got a little while more.
celebrating your birth. Hello?
I got a little while more. Yeah, another 20 minutes.
All right. Hey guys, and you don't have to just ask about console gaming or PS5
Yeah,
Pro. It's just any questions about getting a TV. Oh, someone asked earlier, Black Friday sales. Samsung is starting their Friday deals at the
yep,
end of September, early October. I know it's not Black Friday, but Samsung hits it earlier than everyone else every year. So I'm looking out for Samsung deals for you guys. LG literally waits until the week of Black Friday. Sony
yeah.
waits until the week of Black Friday, but Samsung starts it about a month earlier. So October, you're going to start to see very aggressive Samsung deals. And sometimes it's even lower than Black Friday. So if you miss the deal in October,
Yeah.
it's
That's
not coming
actually
back on Black
happening.
Friday. So when I see a good deal, I'm telling you guys, the next
Yeah,
time this deal is going to be here will be in March. So
yeah,
either get it now or get it in March. It's not going to come back. It's
yeah.
crazy, but there it
Well,
is.
to me, the QN90Ds, I have that TV behind me. That's definitely an unsung hero of the year. QN85, S90, S95. Even look for
Hmm.
the QN800D. That 8K TV will be more affordable. Don't expect the 900 to be much cheaper. They didn't make a ton of them, but I mean, Samsung does hit it hard in that regard.
I'm double checking what this commenter just said. Is there a B4 that's 83 inch? Because if there is, I'm already recommending it.
I don't think there
Sight
is, but
unseen. Is there?
I,
I'm checking
I
right
didn't think, I
now
didn't think there was.
because this would be the TV to buy, honestly.
Yeah,
If
yeah.
you're
If
if you're
you,
just
you
content
go
and
and
with
test
some
it.
casual gaming, oh, it is, dude. It's
Wow,
on
wow. Because
$3,500. Okay,
yeah, but
$3,500.
what's the C4?
The
The C4 is what?
C4 is 5,000. Remember?
Oh, Jesus. Okay.
Five
Yeah.
five. So Dan, this
Yeah.
is this is
Yeah.
it,
Yeah.
man. So let me post this link for you guys real quick. If you guys are looking to spend $3,500, start with the B4 83 inch. It's an
We don't think
OLED.
you're lying, Dan. Dan's like, I wouldn't lie. We don't
Right
think
here, let
you're
me type
lying.
the LG B4 83 inch, right?
Yeah.
It's 34
Yeah.
99. Having seen the B3, I was so impressed just for movie
So impressed.
watching.
Yeah.
Oh wait, Sony is calling me. They're upset that I'm talking about the B4. So I don't know
Well, the
why. It's
well,
it's I'll talk to him later, Andrew.
I tell you, we were at M Wave. We thought the B3 was one of the best looking TVs there, simply because it's not trying to push the brightness. It was just such an even. It was very beautiful. I mean, the whole time it looked great, and I imagine it'd be great for gaming as
Yes,
well.
yes. And a lot of people will ask me, well, what about the Samsung's 83-inch S90 series? I think it's just under 3,000 at its best deal. So this is what I always say. Samsung, this is only their second year playing with WOLED,
Yeah.
whereas LG has been doing WOLED from the very beginning.
Yeah.
So I trust how WebOS deals with WOLED. Now, if you're getting a Samsung QD OLED all day long, but the processing on WOLED, all of its intricacies, nuances, the issues, near black shadow detail, they figured it out at LG. They've done their best to get it there. And when I say figure it out, they've done their best to minimize the flaws and improve where they can. And I'm so impressed by the performance of the B series in general. The B3 last year and this year's B4.
Yeah.
83-inch at 3500 is really a good starter TV, quote unquote. I mean, I know it's still expensive, but at this
Yeah.
price, at 85 inches, a Bravia 9 is over 4,000,
Well,
right?
too fun. You're
85
looking
inch.
at and I think what was the limitation of the B series years ago? Is they were 60 hertz at one point, weren't they? How many
The
years?
limitation was 2 HDMI ports, and
But they were 60 hertz.
it's always an older processor, right? Older processor,
Yeah.
dimmer, and 2. They made so the processors get better every year. I mean, as far as I'm concerned, a B4 processor is indistinguishable from a C4 this year.
Yep.
I mean, for all I know, it could be the same processor, just give it different names. What do we know,
Gen
right?
9. Yeah.
Right? Yeah, Gen whatever, Alpha whatever. And
Yeah.
I don't need 4
No.
ports. I mean, you need it, get the C4. And, but it has full HDMI ports on 2 of them, which is like every other TV out there. But this is really a good first OLED for many people, honestly. Now, it's not the brightest. So you need brightness. Now you're talking S90D, but it's only 77 inches. You want to go
Or C4.
83-inch bright, G4 at what, $6,000, 5,000, whatever. So yeah, I love it. And hey, speaking of sales, another one, Costco. Brian, when is your Costco walkthrough? S90D is $13.99. Dude, okay, so Skull, this is a Black Friday price. $13.99 for a 65-inch S90D. That is a very good price. Is it going to get cheaper? Maybe $50. I don't see it getting under $1,300. Now, it might get to $12.99 on the Samsung site if you're a AAA member. You guys know the drill, right? Program offer members always about $100 cheaper, but $13.99 for anyone who's a member, that is an excellent price. So if you're thinking S90D, you got to pull the trigger on $13.99. It's not going to be more than $100 cheaper by Black Friday. And that's assuming, 1, you catch it in time, 2, you're an offer member. So that is a great price.
What happened last year? The S90D gone.
Oh, it was Costco sold out. You couldn't even get it at Black Friday. It was not even there.
S90C, I'm sorry. They sold them out. Boom, they were gone.
Yeah.
They just got them.
And a lot of people are waiting for the S89, the Best Buy exclusive. That's a few $100s cheaper. This is essentially the price of what the S89C would be last year. So, given inflation and everything, like a few percentage points, this is a very good price, my friends. So, yeah, no, thank you for that, Skull. Great.
Tony asked for the best 42 or 48-inch TV. That would be the C4 for gaming.
That's the only TV, right? Sony doesn't have anything in that size anyway.
But the QN90D I think they have a 40.
Yeah, okay. So Samsung has smaller sizes, but like we said, if it's WOLED, go get LG. Unless you like Tizen, and I understand if you do. I like Tizen.
I like it too now.
Oh, you do now? Yeah, I love Tizen.
I mean, it's just so easy. When you're for you and I, when we're testing things, to switch equipment in and out, it's right there.
Yeah. Well, Muhammad asks, the equivalent of a TCL QM7 or QM8 in Europe. So they call it C something, right? So the C8 series is the QM8 and the C7 series, but it doesn't mean it's the exact spec for spec. So here's the issue. It feels like the USA gets a better spec version. So the USA's QM8, it feels like it has more dimming zones than Europe's C8 series, or the C7 series has less dimming zones than the US's QM7 series. So it's hard. It's not a model for model comparison. Now, I've been told that this year, maybe it is, but generally speaking, C7 matches the 7 version in the US, and the C8 matches the 8 version in the US. So hopefully that's helpful for you. But again, we use Google TV. You use a different version of what it is out there. And also, but the specs, and Hisense is the same. It feels like the European TVs get a spec down version of a similar price TV that we get. So hopefully that isn't the case this year, but yeah, sorry guys. Yeah. I had the S90C and couldn't stand the motion. Does the S90 fix fix the motion? No, Nazra, motion's the same. Now I don't know what you can't stand about the motion, but if it's stutter,
That's a no.
anti-judder at 3, it works. But if it's
Yep.
soap opera, get a Sony.
Yeah.
Samsung will always have a touch of soap.
And they each have their way of approaching it. Some people just
Mhm.
don't like the feel of that motion.
I get
Just
it.
hurt
Yeah,
people.
yeah. And oh, this is a good price. Actually, it's an excellent price. S90D 77 inch is $1,900. Dude,
Is it cute? But is it a QD OLED in Europe? That's the problem.
okay, let's assume it is. That is amazing. For offer members in Europe, right? Assuming it is, that's amazing.
If it's not, I'm sorry. Oh, that's awesome.
Okay, now I can't answer this, but thank you for the super chat. We'll ask people out there. We never know who's a repairman here. Ask people who repair TVs. What TV brands give full blueprints? So, Pagonis, I hate to say this. In the USA, all the people who repair TVs are no longer in business. Remember in the old days when you had CRTs and you had TV repair shops?
Yep.
When I lived in the Valley in Southern California, there was a TV repair shop in every city. Not a
Yep.
TV retailer. They just repaired TVs, right?
Yeah.
All gone. No
There's
more.
still
People just throw it away and buy a new TV.
there's still one in New York here, and it's the one that the manufacturers actually use to fix some of their TVs. To say, like, look,
Oh,
just
wait,
send
wait,
it to
wait,
me.
wait. Wait,
Yeah.
no. When you said there's one in New York, I thought of a story by one of our friends. I won't say her name. They came as immigrants, and the mother would walk behind the back alley. Oh, they're giving away free TVs. And it was a repair store. And she kept on stealing their TVs that they left out for repair. Yeah, I got 4 free TVs this week. It
That
turned
thing's
out
great.
it was
Oh,
behind a repair store. And she's like, all this time, I thought this is such a friendly city.
this place
Everyone's
is
rich. They're throwing
amazing.
away TVs. Turned out they were just stealing them. So, right when you
Fantastic.
said that, I thought of that, and that's why they went out of business, right? They should have lost all their
Yeah.
TVs.
The problem is that, but that goes back to the problem though, is they're so cheaply not cheaply made, but they're not worth fixing anymore. If they were still $10,000, they'd get them fixed. Now they're not worth fixing. So that's kind of the problem with that.
So DJ has a good question. I used to do this. I would like a 2024 chart, gaming TVs list, sizes,
Big
pros and
total?
cons like yours before. And I think I will do that this year as well for Black Friday. There's just so many TVs and there's so much confusion. But yeah, I'll try to make time for that. But I'm glad you appreciate it, DJ. I will make time for that. Yeah, I'll do that just for you. And oh, here we go. Classy wants to let people know because Classy, I have this talk all the time about motion. Latest firmware on the S9C series supposedly messed up the motion. The S9D series does have better motion this year. So there you go. When I chose the S90C 77 inch as my TV of the year, I chose it was my TV of the year, and whoop, it was gone. And they had the firmware update and it screwed it up.
Oh,
Just like the
sorry.
Bravia 9, right? I love the TV, had a firmware update, screwed it up. So, and that S9D series, it's one firmware update from being screwed up as well. So thank you, Classy, for keeping us updated. But yeah, Classy would comment, hey, I just calibrated TV, just got a firmware update. It's a mess. Don't update your firmware. So this is
Yeah.
why we tell you guys, just keep your TV
Yeah.
unplugged from the internet, but definitely disable auto update. No good can come of it. Like I do reviews, and I was going to update my TV, the Bravia 9, because I haven't plugged it in for a month because I've been reviewing other TVs, and I plugged it in to do the U9N. I go, wait, I can disable it because if it
Nope.
screws up, it'd be a terrible stream.
Yep.
It'd be
Nope.
comically bad.
And sometimes they don't go back and follow up. The TV gets too old.
And
They're adding features.
Pagonis wants to let everyone know Sony gives the complete blueprint. That's great, Pagonis. I really like that about Sony. So yeah, and maybe Panasonic might too. We'll see.
Yeah.
So I think, despite his complaints, Sony's going to be king of TVs. And so, all right. Oh my goodness, it's already 5 o'clock your time, 2 o'clock my time. We've been on since 11:30. Wow, 2.5 hours. I think it's a good time to wrap up. So we're going to take A few more of your questions. Ask me anything you want. Best TVs for PS5 Pro, best TVs for Xbox, best TVs for PC gaming, or just best TVs for you to give your stepmother. Let us know what your budget is, what your size, and Brian and I will argue until the cows come home. And so here we
Absolutely.
have. This is the easy question, Brian. Thinking of getting the G4. Is it a solid TV?
Yeah, best
I
TV
have
in
to
the world.
laugh. So let
What are
me
you
give you
gonna
Brian's response. Wait, Brian. Give me context. We're at the shootout, King of TV. Brian's like, G4, best TV in the world. And the
do?
winner is the Sony A95L.
Yeah.
Nah!
Yeah.
It
And
is
I
a good
still think it's the
TV.
best TV in the world. Absolutely. It's still a solid TV. It's not like it's 5 years old. It's still current TV. Hell yeah.
It's a good TV, Nazra. Okay, so now to know what you're getting into, though. WOLED in general, right? Especially the LG TVs, and I say especially because they don't bend their OLEDs, meaning you might have uniformity issues. So on a gray screen, you might see vertical banding, and a lot of people complain. And so they get a QD OLED, S90D, S95D, Sony A95L. It isn't a guarantee that uniformity is always better, but consistently it is better. So that's one reason why I like QD OLED. But image quality for watching streaming, Netflix, Blu-ray disc, they're almost indistinguishable. And I do like WebOS. They do a great job with all the settings. It's solid overall. G4 is a premium TV, and they have a 5-year panel warranty. No TV maker has 5-year panel warranty. Hisense has a 2-year warranty, I discovered, so that's excellent. So Hisense has the longest all-in warranty at 2 years. LG has the longest panel warranty for OLED replacement for burn-in in the G4 only. G4, G3, right? G2, if you have that, 5-year panel replacement, you pay for labor, but still, that's the expensive part. So yeah, I'm all for it. I would never tell a person not to get a G4. And at 83 inch, it's the only game in town.
Yeah,
All
absolutely.
right, let's see. Sony A95L versus S95D.
So, Tomek?
I personally would get the S95D
Me too.
because I like Tizen. I like what the features it has.
You say
Now,
Tizen.
I have a family. That's another reason why I like the S95D. My parents, kids, they like Tizen. It's so fast. Now,
Wow.
for my man cave, critical movie watching and the like, I need to get the S95D and A95L calibrated correctly, all that good stuff. And at that point, you know what? Uh, Either one's fine, but I do like the S95D personally, but I have the A95L. Love that TV as well. And I
Yeah,
use
go
that
for it.
often to compare skin tones out of the box. But the S95D is such a good TV. But Brian, you may not like the anti-glare. So for me, I have controlled
I like it
brightness in
now.
the room. I don't care.
I
So
think
what are your thoughts?
I like the third gen panel. I think there is a difference. I've compared them together, and they're more accurate presets. They look identical. Once you step out of those, the S95D pulls away in terms of vibrancy and brightness. So I do appreciate that, and I like the gaming features much better, Tomic. So, I mean, that for me, it's an easy choice.
Yeah. And oh well, here's a great question. It's actually about TVs. I just lost it for a second. Oh, hey, are you have a review with the 800D, which is the 8K TV from Samsung, their cheapest 8K TV. Have you seen the 800D? I know it's on sale.
Yeah, I had it. I have it, and I have a review on it, but I didn't not going to release it until Black Friday or around that time because it was too expensive. It's excellent.
It, that's
It's
all. That's
excellent.
all they needed to
It
hear.
doesn't have the same processor as the 900D. The 900D had its own processor as far as upscaling, but its upscaling is still better than the resolution does help in terms of processing. So I would get it.
Okay. Okay. Great. I'm going down here. Classy has a great context. Remember when Samsung used
Same
to
here,
give 10-year
baby.
warranties against burn on the LCDs when OLED came out?
I
And then,
guarantee. What a safe bet that was. Oh, what's up,
hey,
Max?
Max. Hey. Glad to see you're on, buddy. I'm
What's up,
trying to go
brother?
through all the TV questions for you guys before we head out. And do I think there will be an 83-inch? Oh, wait, here's one. Marco Center, 77-inch S90 CD, 1399.
Nice.
Run, don't walk. That's
Yeah,
amazing.
yeah.
Best gaming TV for $500. I'm sorry. It would have to be a QM7 55 inch, discounted. 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 55 inch But if you can get a QM7 55-inch for $500, I'd go for it.
Yeah, that's a tough.
Okay.
That's
Roku Pro versus Hisense U7N.
what is it? A Roku Pro? What is
I'd go
that?
with the QM7. I know you didn't suggest that. I choose the U7N or the QM7 over the Roku Pro. But if you need
Roku Pro.
Roku, buy a Roku separately and plug it into the U7N.
Can't stand Roku.
I don't know. I don't. It's their first 2 years attempting at making a TV. It becomes a contract manufacturer anyway. They're contracting out to TCL. You should just get a TCL if you're getting a Roku.
Yeah,
So that's kind of like my
yeah.
thing.
I don't, and that interface is so obtrusive. It's hard to get around it.
Oh, heck. Marco Center sells refurbished Costco. The S90CD is refurbished. Okay, so when I
Ooh,
told you
that's
to run, don't walk, walk back. Come
walk
back.
the other way. Yeah,
Walk
refurbished
the
means
other-
return, by the way.
Yeah.
Hey, remember, classy. Remember when refurbished sounded like they cleaned it and stuff? Hey, we refurbished it. It's great. We cleaned it up. Nah, man, they just returned it. Wow, that's a
Yeah.
big difference. That's a no.
No, that is. No, suddenly $13.99 feels expensive to me.
It does for you.
Like, well, what? All right. So, before we go, we're going to talk about just a quick bonus for you guys. What do we expect? Oh, wait. This is even better. I was thinking about getting a Sony Bravia 7. Would that be good? I just joined the conversation. James, good news. Guess what Brian and I have coming our way in the next week? We have the Bravia 7 to review. And
I
in
didn't
the
hear mine
context,
getting this week. Are you getting yours this week?
some point, I don't know about this week, maybe next week. I
Okay.
have to wait for confirmation. But so my comparison will be with the Panasonic Mini LED because these are two cinema TVs that I think it's important to kind of focus on what their strengths are. But yeah, I can't wait to get the Bravia 7 to check it out. And then we'll do a little gaming with it as well with the PS5,
Yep.
given the launch and the pre-orders and stuff. I locked in my
Yep.
pre-order.
I like the Bravia
I'm a
7.
sucker for new things. Huh?
Yeah, I like the 65-inch Bravia 7 when it came out, but it's just the Bravia 9 overshadowed it. But it's definitely a great TV. We'll see.
Yeah.
I think we're both going to have 75 inches, right? You getting 75?
I got a 65.
Man,
I have a 75 U9N. It was a bear getting it on the stand and everything.
gotcha.
Darnell has a great question. So he's looking to upgrade his 65-inch and wants an 85-inch something. What brand? And he's a gamer. So obviously, cost no object. We'll start with cost no object at 85 inches. If you're not going OLED, so 83-inch G4, our recommendation for gamers at that size. If you can't afford the 83-inch G4, 83-inch C4 is a good secondary option. If you can't afford the 83 C4 at 5,000, now we have the 83-inch B4 at 3,500. So I've exhausted my OLED recommendations at the 85-inch size.
It's not hard with the
3,500 Best Buy 3,500 LG B4. Okay, you don't want OLED, you want Mini LED. For gamers, I recommend Samsung Mini LED LCD TVs. So you have the 85-inch QN 90D or 95D, and then you drop it down to the QN 85D.
85 is great.
And yep. And now after that, you lose the Mini LED and you end up with a Q. Now, so here's the thing. 85 inches. If you go to the Q80, now you don't have the contrast and all that good stuff. I don't know what your budget is, but I want to keep you in the Mini LED space because the
At
contrast
this
and
time,
everything.
definitely. At this point, yes.
Yeah. So hopefully that fits your budget, Arnell. Oh, look, our buddy Graphically Challenged is here. Hey.
Hey, what's up,
He
bro?
has a channel as well. He also reviews GPUs, gaming products, and TVs. The 98UX might beat the Bravia 9 through brute force. 10K
Yeah.
gaming zones, 10,000 gaming zones, 10,000 dimming zones, ADS Pro. What do you think? So I'm impressed by ADS Pro. And I don't have the 98UX. I've been told that I could review it at some point. Brute force. So this is a Hisense. It's their second best TV. Their best TV is the 110-inch with like over 20,000 dimming zones, like maybe 40,000, something insane like that. 4K TV, the 110-inch UX. One step below that is the 98-inch UX right here with 10,000 dimming zones in ADS Pro. So I'll tell you this, I was disappointed with their tone mapping on the U9N. If they don't fix the tone mapping on the U9N and it's the same tone mapping software on the 98UX, don't bring it out. It's going to get killed. The Bravia 9 ran circles around the U9N. And it's not because of the dimming zone difference, because the Bravia 9 has way less dimming zones. So it's inexcusable for the U9N not to beat the Bravia 9 with the brightness headroom and all that. So I'm going to talk to Hisense and share with them my observations, because the U8K or U8X, the U8N ended up having better tone mapping software than the U9. Unacceptable, because the U9 has a higher end processor hardware, or the image processor. So there's some things to be done at Hisense at their flagship level. But right now, the U8N is the best TV at Hisense, regardless of price. I find their tone mapping to be near Bravia 9-like, but the U9N did not have that same sophistication of tone mapping. So yeah, that's what I think.
I mean, the UX from last year was toe to toe with the X95K. So, I mean, it's definitely believable.
And so that's wild. You had contrast issues for me. This goes to what Classy and I always talk about, and Brian, panel lottery.
Yeah,
man,
very different.
Panel, because Brian had a great U7N, and my U7N was contrast issue as well.
Right,
so, and the contrast wasn't the issue with the U9N. It was definitely tone mapping. So it could be a panel lottery as well. So for those of you shopping Hisense or just any TV, I'm going to throw it out there, because people who buy the A95L, they got a T-Con problem and their TV permanently shut off after 6 hours, right? So anytime you get a TV, if you feel something's off and you have a no questions asked replacement policy, just replace it. I mean, it's there for you to swap it out and get a better version of that TV. Okay. That's it for today, folks. I would like to thank Brian for coming, keeping me company, answering your questions. We are going to try to have another live stream next week, Talk TVs with you guys. Brian, what's happening this week? What are you doing that's so exciting?
I'm celebrating my 50th birthday tomorrow. So I'll be 50 years old. That's tomorrow, and that's about it. So I'll be doing content a little more steady next week. I have a ton of TVs here. I got a bunch of Hisense. I got Panasonic. I have Samsung, so a ton going on. But this weekend I'll be off and just chilling, just getting older.
All right. You deserve it. Take time off, man. I'll leave you alone. And I'll be doing my U9N review. It'll be a short one because I think I need a few firmware updates. I'll be finishing up my Z95A OLED review. I love that TV, by the way. The Z95A is amazing. And yeah. And then we'll see you guys next week. Have a few FOMO shows set up for you guys. And thank you, everyone, for joining me. Until next time, my friends, stop the FOMO.